This boy used to be bullied by everyone at the Demon Academy, and when he's called to spar against one of his bullies, that bastard expects our boy to be an easy punching bag as usual. But Kella suddenly releases such a powerful aura that the bully instantly shits his pants. And all the students around him are shocked, wondering what kind of mana this is. Its pressure is so overwhelming that the bully simply can't move. Kella lunges forward and smacks this bastard so hard that he crashes the ground below. Now even the professor is scared that his student might be dead. Well, it's almost true. But the bully is still alive and shivering simply begs our boy to spare him. So why did Kella suddenly change so much? The thing is, pro gamer Kang Chiwoo has ended up in his body. He was just crossing the street when Truck Kun almost did his job. Luckily, the truck driver slams on the brakes just in time. But then our boy notices a loose reinforcing iron bar that's about to fall. It's only a matter of time before it crushes a little girl like a tomato. Chiwoo quickly dashes forward and pushes the girl out of the way, sacrificing himself to save her. But it isn't the end. In the next moment, he opens his eyes in a brand new body. Of course, he's got a ton of questions. Like, where the hell is he? Whose body is this? And why isn't he dead? One thing's for sure, that he's pretty darn sure he's reincarnated into someone's body. The overwhelming sensations flooding his senses are proof that this isn't a dream. As for where he is, all he can tell is that he's inside some old castle. While muttering all sorts of questions to himself, he gets struck by a sharp blade that goes straight through his chest, causing blood to pour out. The woman then retracts the sword, causing even more pain. While she's enjoying watching him struggle, Chiwoo is not sure how the hell he's still conscious after taking such a brutal hit. He turns to her and asks why she's doing this. The lady doesn't bother explaining much, raising her sword again to obliterate Chiwoo into smithereens, but she halts just as quickly when another guy enters the scene. Turns out, the three of them are siblings, and that girl's name is Kildara, their sister. The big bro who just showed up feels pity for his younger sibling, and tells their sister not to be too harsh on him. He kneels down to be at eye level with Chiwoo and hands him a potion. He pretends to care about his little brother, which makes our boy think that this guy actually cares about him. So, he grabs the potion, thinking it's some kind of healing elixir. As soon as he drinks it, he realizes the hard way that it's poison and throws up immediately. By the way, his new name in this world is Kella. His throat feels like it's pierced by a million needles, and it's so hot it feels like it's boiling. Seeing him suffer, his trash sister gets concerned, thinking he's about to die. After all, she wants to be the one to claim his life. The big brother reassures her that Kella might be in pain, but this trash won't die so easily. Suddenly the castle gates open, and the soldiers announce the return of King Hel Khaldun from his hero hunt. Turns out, the king in question is the father of these pathetic siblings bullying Kella. As we get a closer look, the king looks like a total Chad, with a no-nonsense attitude plastered across his face. Right now, he's disappointed to hear the pathetic cries of pain echoing through his castle. The trash sister starts apologizing for the commotion and tries to throw Kella under the bus. But the Demon King doesn't take their crap. In an instant, he closes the distance between them, grabs both of his kids by their throats, and starts choking them with his godly grip. As far as he's concerned, it's a humiliation for the weak to make any noise in the walls of his castle. Both siblings continue apologizing with their suffocating breaths. It's then that Kella realizes this bastard is his father, if those two pathetic parasites are his siblings. The Demon King then proceeds to stomp on Kella. After all, the only voices he'll tolerate in his castle are the sounds of a great demon being born or the sound of an honorable death. With those words, he stomps on Kella like he is some sort of empty cola can, causing his screams to reverberate throughout the castle. As Kella lies there, defeated, one thing's for sure, he's not dreaming. He has definitely reincarnated into another world. And, as if the comedy of errors couldn't get worse, he's the son of a bastard demon lord. Before we move on with the story, let's take a trip down memory lane to when Kella was just a child. As usual, he's been the punching bag for his siblings, and all he could do was cry and complain to his mother. While Kildara poked his eye with a fork, his brother Tarm poisoned his food. The only advice the doting mother gives him is to pay them back like a real demon would. Kella could do that, but he fears the consequences of messing with his siblings, like he might end up getting killed. In that case, his mother simply suggests that he kill them before they can kill him. You see, Kella's father killed 12 of his brothers and became the great Demon King, so it's only natural that if someone's trying to kill Kella, he should kill them first. She then pulls out her dagger and swiftly plunges it into the poor kid's belly, showing him the way of demons. This is how he's supposed to treat his siblings. Right away, Kella wakes up from his nightmare, panting heavily. There's a maid beside him, looking relieved to see him awake. Meanwhile, our boy is piecing things together. What he just saw in his dream were fragments of memories from the original owner of this body, Hel Khaldun. He then notices that every wound has already healed, which means the owner of this body possesses insane regenerative abilities. The maid reminds him that he's been asleep for days, so he should get up and have some food with his family to replenish his energy. This woman is actually Kella's personal servant, who goes by the name Rin. Kella was much more timid compared to his siblings, so he's always been despised. Even Rin doesn't treat him like a proper maid would. There are plenty of memories of Rin that Kella has, and none of them are pleasant. She was never that obedient servant, always slacking off instead of fulfilling her duties. In simpler terms, she's a little rascal. For once, Kella also feels that the previous owner of this body was pathetic. After all, if he wasn't, he wouldn't have let a servant treat the son of the Demon King like this. Basically, Kella has been bullied by everyone all this time. Now that he thinks about it, his life here isn't much different from the one he had in his previous world. At this point, it's just nature's law that the weak get devoured by the strong. Later, when he sits at the family table for food, he finds his father and siblings there. The Demon King seems kind of annoyed at Kella's unpunctuality. Kella instinctively feels intimidated, but hey, he's in the presence of the Demon King after all. Still, he takes his seat and apologizes for being late. Poor guy just can't catch a break. His sister Caldera launches a dagger under the table that jabs right into his leg. Of course, this causes him immense pain while Caldera and her servant laugh like a bunch of hyenas. She teases him and hopes he'll eat well and become a good man. Inwardly, Kella is dying of pain. He can't imagine the consequences if his family learns that the person inside this body isn't Kella anymore. Nonetheless, outwardly, he appreciates the concern she's showing and promises to eat well. But as soon as he takes the first bite, he realizes that the thing he's eating isn't food at all. It looks like it's the doing of Tarm as usual, who, instead of serving real food, gave him a foul-tasting soup as an appetizer. Tarmy keeps a soft smile on his face, acting like he cares so much about his brother. But Kella knows all too well it's just a facade. If he's being brutally honest, the three demons present here aren't his family, they're his arch-nemeses. This is when he makes a vow. He won't be a punching bag for these guys anymore. He's done with their bullshit, and he'll make a change for the better. He's always wanted to accomplish something by himself. In the game, he was recognized as the strongest map designer. But when it came to real-life matters, he was absolutely shit at it. He was utterly powerless, utterly hopeless, with no ray of hope coming from anywhere. And that's how he died a dog's death under a reinforcement iron bar. But this time he won't die a pathetic death. With that in mind, he picks up a food platter and throws it hard in his sister's face. After all, why should he be the only one to taste the food Tarmy made with such love? Furthermore, he pulls out the dagger lodged in his leg and throws it at Tarma. Again, he shouldn't be the only one to enjoy the gift his sister gave him. Of course, the Demon King has no idea what flipped Kella's switch all of a sudden. Bro's going bonkers. He grabs the dining table and literally flips it over, causing everything to fly around. A while later, we cut back to Kella, who looks thoroughly pleased after making his family taste their own medicine. Though he probably shouldn't have flipped that table, because it infuriated his father beyond belief. Poor Kella gets pounded into the ground like a pathetic dog. Nonetheless, he recovers quickly, so he's not complaining. He can feel a foreign strength within him, making him feel like he's truly the Demon King's son. For now, he wants to figure out the extent of his abilities. As if on cue, his maid reminds him about the lessons he's supposed to take on demonic powers. Kella responds coldly, telling her he won't tolerate her commanding tone. Of course, Rin is bewildered by where all this attitude is coming from. Meanwhile, Kella is thinking about these so-called demonic power lessons. From what he managed to gather from Kella's memories, they're some of the worst things he's ever experienced. Still, that's no reason to skip them. Later, once he gets to the training grounds, the instructor reveals that Lady Caldera and Lord Tarm won't be joining the class today. Though the teacher is glad that at least the rest of the students are here. Among the students stands Kella, who doesn't seem to have a good impression of the trash standing on both his shoulders. He remembers them from Kella's memories, and the memories he shares with these guys aren't pleasant ones. In those memories, these bastards would always beat the shit out of the timid Kella, claiming they were just practicing. All of them, including his siblings, were true demons, relishing in bullying him as if it was their perfect pastime. Even though Kella never had the will to fight or continue the mock duels, they'd always find some excuse to beat him to a pulp. For Kella, one thing has become crystal clear. The previous owner of this body wasn't weak at all, but he was just too kind-hearted for his own good. Now that the kind-hearted Kella is gone, Kella plans to change everything. He's going to use these amazing powers for himself and show these bastards how trash they really are. As the class begins, the teacher announces they're continuing the sparring session they left off from the last class. The redhead guy claims that it was he who had been fighting Kella last time. The sassy redhead can't help but throw jabs to rile up Kella, but this is the mistake he shouldn't be making, and Kella's sure he's going to regret it. As both combatants face off, the redhead conjures up red and blue energy around his hands, ready to duel. The onlookers are sure that Kella's about to get his ass handed to him again. Some of them tell the redhead to go easy on Kella, because they won't be able to handle his whiny screeches. By the way, this bastard's name is Rude. Kella takes note of how these assholes resemble the bullies from his past life. In some ways, they remind him of our boy's old self. Like in his past life, he didn't have money or strength, and everyone looked down on him. But now all of that will be in the past. With that, my guy begins exuding an immense amount of mana, enough to make his opponent tighten up in fear. Not just him, but all the jackasses who love to hate Kella are now in shambles. Rude looks like he's about to have a serious case of constipation. The pressure is so intense that his feet are literally petrified to the ground. Kella, on the other hand, balls up his fist and delivers a punch so devastating that it drills that bastard into the ground. All those goons who were once having fun mocking Kella now have their jaws on the floor. Even the teacher is sweating bullets. The fact that Rude didn't get a single chance to react is just mind-blowing. Rude's face looks like a battered piñata, with his horns and teeth broken, blood pouring out. Kella, however, isn't messing around. This punch is meant to send the message that Kella is not some lowly back-alley kid. He's the son of the mighty Demon King, and he won't tolerate anyone talking shit about someone from the royal family. Rude musters a feeble apology because he really doesn't want to get killed. Kella gives him one final deadly glare, making sure the bastard knows not to try this shit again. Meanwhile, a wave of despair begins to creep over the assholes standing on the sidelines. They can't believe this is the same loser Kella they used to bully. Now Kella has ascended to the level of a Sigma. Just his presence alone is making even the instructor fear for his life. Kella turns to his trashy teacher and insists he conduct the class as he's supposed to. In the background, Rin is also awestruck by this side of Kella, something she's never seen before. For the first time, she's sure something suspicious is going on. We then cut to the Demon King, who watches all this unfold from the balcony. We cut to Hel Khaldun's castle, where Kella's annoyed siblings are gathered. Seldera is fuming because that little brat dared to throw poisoned soup in her face, and Tarmi hasn't forgotten the humiliation he suffered either. For now, Tarm tells his sister to calm down and focus on recovering. After all, she doesn't have Kella's scary regenerative abilities. This only makes her angrier, and she throws a tantrum about how only that brat was blessed with regenerative powers. Tarmi is sure that Kella has gone through some sort of personality change. He can't stop thinking about how Kella daringly flipped the table over and declared that from now on, everyone would eat in their own rooms. That alone made their father crack a smile, something they'd never seen in their entire lives. Seldera's fury intensifies. The idea that their father would smile for someone like Kella drives her insane. Tarmi shares her thoughts. He then states that he'd rather die than join forces with her, but the situation is so dire that he has no choice but to suggest they team up and deal with Kella first. Tildera smiles, signaling that she's all in for this idea. She too wants to deal with her little brother before Kella catches their father's attention again. We then cut back to Kella in the classroom. He's spooked when the teacher shows them a hologram of the previous Demon King, Turk Khaldun. The sight of Turk is enough to intimidate Kella. The teacher continues, explaining how Turk was hailed as the strongest demon of his time. His downfall came at the hands of a cowardly scheme by the Heaven Guild. Since then, every guild has started advancing toward the demonic kingdom, hoping to be the first to annihilate the demons. Kella already knows about these guilds from Kella's memories. Apparently, due to these guild folks, Kella was never able to escape the castle and live a normal life. Living here in this hellhole was miserable. The teacher explains that with the large Heaven Guild as their foundation, these bastards are preparing to launch an attack on the demon kingdom. Therefore, to help King Hell wipe them out, the teacher urges every student to pour their heart into combat training. Every student shouts with enthusiasm and praise for their demon king. Cutting back to Kella, now sitting at the highest point in the castle, he gazes at their territory. He wants to find a way to escape. After all, if he stays, he might fall for his siblings' shady schemes and die unnecessarily. According to Rin, his father is supposed to leave the castle for his next hero hunt in 3 days. Kella then asks her if she knows the biggest weakness this castle has. Rin isn't sure why Kella is suddenly so serious, but she answers with a no. Kella reveals that there's no mapmaker to help them navigate the terrain of battle. The guild bastards are using the neglected territories around them to launch their attacks. Kella doesn't want to waste any time before his father goes on his next expedition. In the meantime, he plans to map out the entire area. He believes this is the only way he can truly help his father destroy every last one of those bastards surrounding their territory. While the old Kella failed to escape many times, Kella plans to make his escape a success this time. He has more freedom here than he did in his old world, and he's confident he'll succeed in creating the map. He suddenly turns to Rin, shouting at her to create a secret office in the castle basement right away, as he needs a space to secretly work without his father knowing about his plans. We cut back to the Demon King, who already seems aware of Kella's escape plan. He's pretty sure Kella won't be able to escape his father's watchful eye. So, before it's too late, the king decides to put his own plan into motion. The next scene opens with Kella's disappointed face. The space Rin chose for him isn't what he imagined. It looks more like a storeroom than an elegant office befitting the son of the Demon King. Poor Rin starts sobbing because this was the best place she could manage to find, especially since she was strictly told that the place had to remain a secret. It looks like Kella is intentionally yelling at her to establish a real master-servant dynamic between them, and it seems his change in attitude is actually working. Rin can feel that he's gotten much scarier, something that doesn't resemble the old Kella she knew. At the same time, she can't help but notice how cool he's become. He now carries himself with such grace and authority that it's honestly making her feel a little turned on. Kella yells at her again for wasting time daydreaming and orders her to fetch him a cup of coffee. The poor girl dashes away to get what he's ordered. Meanwhile, Kella finally focuses on his plans. He spreads the map out on the table. After seeing how the demon castle is geographically disadvantaged, he decides to create his own map. Meanwhile, Rin is running down the empty corridors, desperately trying to fulfill her orders. She's so caught up in the moment that she doesn't even realize coffee doesn't exist here, and she has no clue how to proceed with this bizarre order. Just then, she's startled by the presence of the Demon King, who questions what she's doing in the basement without Kella, and where Kella is right now. The poor girl starts to panic. After all, she was told to keep his office a secret. But under the Demon King's intense scrutiny, she's not sure how much longer she can keep quiet. Meanwhile, Kella is having the time of his life, drawing out his map with ease. He's genuinely enjoying himself as he maps out the terrain. Suddenly, a blast rocks the front gate. Of course, it's his father, looking absolutely furious to learn that Kella has created a secret office without reporting it to him first. Poor guy doesn't even get a chance to explain himself before his father delivers a hard blow to his belly. His father wants him to face him head-on, not hide away in a basement and plot the king's death like a coward. The pain Kella's feeling is on a whole other level compared to his siblings' petty beatings. If this keeps up for a few more minutes, Kella is sure he's going to die. Before that happens, he quickly presents the map to his father. The Demon King, utterly confused, doesn't understand what Kella is trying to prove by showing him a map. Kella begins to speak like a parrot, revealing how the outskirts of the castle are too geographically disadvantaged for their battles against the guilds. If they change the geography based on his map, it'll greatly aid them in the upcoming battles. Finally, the Demon King understands and retracts his hand, though he still doesn't understand why Kella needed to set up a secret office in the first place. Kella, without hesitation, explains that it would have been too arrogant to directly claim he wanted to help the mighty Demon King in his endeavors. That's why he wanted to show the revised map instead of blatantly making such a claim. Now that he's demonstrated his usefulness with the map, he asks his father to accept his help in exterminating Heaven's forces. Rin, watching from the background, is absolutely losing it. She's wondering why Kella is so reckless, addressing the Demon King with such blatant confidence. She thinks he's trying to get himself killed, but it seems like Rin is just overthinking it. The Demon King only asks how long it will take to complete the map. Kella lights up like a kid in a candy store, realizing his father actually approves of his map. He flashes all 5 fingers of his hand. The Demon King misunderstands his gesture and thinks Kella is asking for 5 days. So my guy quickly clears the air by reassuring him that it'll only take 5 hours, and once the map is finished, they can complete the necessary construction before the battle with Heaven. The Demon King is taken aback by his son's boldness. Eventually, he cracks a smile and gives Kella all the necessary permissions he needs. However, the Demon King warns Kella that if he turns out to be all bark and no bite, he'll pay the price with his life. With those words, the Demon King walks away. Suddenly, Kella is hit by a wave of pain and vomits, the aftermath of the blow he took from his father. On a serious note, he can't shake the fact that his own father would have killed him if he hadn't proved himself. Meanwhile, Rin feels a twinge of admiration. Her master actually managed to negotiate with the Demon King in his favor. Of course, poor girl gets yelled at again for standing idly by and is told to take Kella to the medical room. Just as Kella promised, he completes the map in record time of 5 hours. The Demon King's forces gather and begin extensive construction according to the new plan. The mages use illusion magic outside the construction area, transforming the geography so the enemy won't notice what's going on behind the scenes. Just like Kella aced every map in the game, this one is also a success. We cut to the Heaven Guild assembly. Heaven Guild Master Hermison announces to his camp that the demons are transforming the surrounding terrain to their advantage. They've also discovered that the demons are using illusion magic. One of the juniors questions if they should launch an attack and disrupt the demons' preparations. The old man responds with no. As far as his strategic mind can tell, launching an attack now would be useless since they're already late. Their only option is to stick with the original plan. In 3 days, the strongest squad formed in Talua, known as Talcan, is arriving. Talua has been forming Talcan, their strongest squad, for decades. Now that elite squad is finally at its peak. He's sure those pesky demons won't be able to beat the strongest elite squad, which had been prepared in decades, now will be here in 3 days. That's why he's confident the Great Demon King will perish. We cut to the Talcan squad, making their way at full speed. They're confident they'll reach the Demon King's castle in just 2 days. Leading the charge is their general, Kilman, absolutely hyped up. He rallies his squad, declaring that they'll be the ones to bring down the Great Demon King, who has lasted for thousands of years. The rest of the squad is equally hyped, ready to burn the demon castle to the ground and wipe out the creatures inside. Riding a horse below is Shrills, the army commander. She's immensely proud of General Kilman's leadership. Her sidekick asks if they can actually defeat the Demon King this time. Shrill's response is positive. Talcan squad is unlike any other guild. Taking down the Demon King and his castle isn't far-fetched. It's just a matter of time. Meanwhile, the Demon King seems very pleased after learning how effective Kella's map actually is. Though it's not a perfect plan, it's better than nothing. And with his own body reaching its limits, he doesn't have many options left to rely on. Tomorrow will be the day he finally settles things with heaven. The mages and demons are working furiously to finish the necessary constructions before the deadline. Kella watches as progress is being made. He can feel the difference between mapping terrain in a game and changing the real-world geography. Still, there's something thrilling about having the power to reshape the land. All he needs to do now is wait for the battle between hell and heaven to unfold. Tomorrow will determine how effective his map truly is. Finally, the day of the battle arrives. The forces of heaven have gathered, and Tolkien's squad has reached their camp. The soldiers chant Tolkien's name, revering their power. Guildmaster Hermison meets with Commander Kilman. Kilman expresses his eagerness to march toward the Demon King's territory and defeat them once and for all. The old man is ready to proceed with the plan, and before they begin their march, the soldiers raise their hands and let out a unified battle cry. Out of nowhere, a small blue ball appears between the feet of Kilman and Hermison. It looks like some kind of portal, rapidly expanding. Kilman roars for his soldiers to prepare for an enemy surprise attack, ordering them into a defensive formation. From the blue energy, the Demon King himself, Hel Khaldun, steps out. To understand why the Demon King has come to the front lines, we flash back to an earlier moment. Kella reveals to his father that he has removed the barrier that focused Heaven's surveillance magic on their castle. This means his father can now use teleportation magic without anyone watching them. Soon, the mighty Demon King will be standing right in the center of Heaven's base. Of course, his daughter objects, arguing that teleporting straight into the enemy's base is reckless. Tarmi, too, adds that it's too dangerous, even for the mighty Demon King. The Demon King is furious at this criticism. It feels as though his children are questioning his competence. Both siblings tremble under their father's intense gaze. What they were actually trying to say is that he hasn't fully recovered and should avoid such risks. But the Demon King has had enough. He silences them, reminding them that only he will decide what's right or wrong. He's already made up his mind. He will begin the assault in the heart of Heaven's base. Back in the present, the Demon King vows to eradicate every last one of them. Kilman, on the other hand, is also determined to make sure the Demon King regrets his decision to show up. He quickly orders his Tolkien squad to commence fire. Meanwhile, Kella has gathered all his forces where he needs them. With the preparations complete, he orders his army to charge forward. The terrifying army roars as they rush forward, while Heaven's soldiers begin casting offensive magic spells. But the Heaven soldiers are caught off guard when, out of nowhere, a massive number of demons spring from the ground and latch onto the humans. Kella watches from above. Despite the bloodbath unfolding below, he can't help but crack a smile after seeing that everything is going according to the plan. Just as Kella is enjoying the success of his map, his siblings arrive, and it's clear they've come as his worst nightmare. They don't want him to hog all the glory and recognition from their father, so Kella must die right here. Tarmi uses his strange whip, piercing Kella right in the belly. It burrows deeper into him, continuing to lodge itself further inside. While Tarmi presses the tentacle further, he commands Kildara to make her move as well. She charges at Kella with a sword in hand, and in a split second, she severs his head as if it's a mere cucumber. The two siblings smile triumphantly as Kella's head flies through the air. While he might have crazy regeneration abilities, his siblings are sure that he won't be able to avoid his death this time. Eyes wide open in surprise, Hel Khaldun's head flew away from his body, spilling blood all over the place. His frame fell off the overlooking castle wall. Hitting the floor, the ground was painted red. With his quickly flickering remnant of life, Kella lets out a muffled noise. His traitorous siblings, Tarmi and Kildara, look down with glee, admiring their bloody work. Just when Tarmi was about to turn around to go and help his father, Kildara seized the chance to stab him in his weak spot. After dealing lethal amounts of damage, she jumped away from her quick-witted brother. Tarmi was taken aback upon seeing their mother's forbidden weapon in Seldara's hand. Crazy Seldara couldn't care less about rules forbidding the use of certain weapons. They're demons after all. If she kills her remaining competition right now, she will be the sole successor left. As Tarmi bleeds out, he dashed in anger, aiming to take her down with him. But it was practically over the moment he was stabbed with the forbidden blade. As they clashed on the rooftop, their beheaded little brother's life slowly faded away. He couldn't help but think about how demonic those two really are. Before breathing his last breath, the ground his body was lying on magically collapsed. Situated directly underneath Kella was his personal servant, Rin. She deftly grabbed his head and body, pulling them to safety. Away from prying eyes, she forcefully attached the separated parts together. Shivering in concern, Rin desperately tried to help her boss. Meanwhile, the demon army is flocking to the teleportation portals to mount a surprise attack on Heaven's flank. Unfortunately for them, humans have already accounted for such a tactic. Nevertheless, they charged forth without fear. They excelled in straightforward confrontations anyway. There is no going back for either side anymore. While the foot soldiers were engaged in an inconsequential battle, the main event just got more hype when a whole-ass dragon joined in. It had been a while since Demon King Hel Khaldun last dealt with a mythical beast like this. Regardless, he played with the scaled monster like a lost lizard. Using his sheer arm strength, he ripped the dragon's head, beheading the beast before it could execute a single attack. General Killman was aghast. Philly the Dragon was supposed to be one of their trump cards. Panicking, he ordered the Mage Brigade to unleash everything. After an ungodly barrage of mana, the general waited for the smoke to clear, praying that they did enough damage to stifle the Demon King. Then, the humans felt a collective chill running up their spines. Hel Khaldun emerged from the rubble, his body twisting and transforming into something unearthly. Emanating limitless power, the boss just entered his next phase. General Killman had read and studied about this form from ancient texts. Throughout history, there are very few who have witnessed the Demon King's final form and lived to tell the tale. The soldiers looked to their superiors for orders, their bodies refusing to move from fear. Fighting through dread, Commander Srill's kept everyone's morale from dropping to hell. Even General Killman can feel the paralyzing terror taking over his body. The Demon King is aware of one glaring flaw in Kella's otherwise flawless plan. Even though they can bring the fight to the center of Heaven's base, they are essentially trapping themselves in a kill or be killed battlefield. As the Demon King, Hel couldn't possibly let that flaw get in the way of a golden opportunity to Aura farm. He is used to playing a zero-sum game. Somehow he feels as though his son has taken his pride into consideration as well. Casting useless thoughts aside, Hel focused on how he'd slaughter everything in his path. As usual, the best way to solve a problem is to mow everybody down until they're dead. As he goes into his combat stance, General Killman urgently warns his men of what's coming. Shaking all useless emotions aside, he charged forth as the vanguard. The Demon King's eyes glimmered with brutality as the war reached its crescendo. Back in the castle's hidden basement, Rin is still holding on to her master's body, making sure not to move an inch. She prayed to whatever deity was out there to heal young Master Kella. A few days ago, Kella actually forced her to participate in some gruesome experiments. He would dismember his own body, and his poor servant must help him attach them back. It was a bit gross, but it works. Healing a severed arm only takes a few seconds. After a few tests on non-lethal parts, Kella strengthened his resolve to account for a beheading next. He needs to make sure that his super regeneration can save him from the most egregious injury. He promised Rin that they'd take doing head slowly. After a few nerve-wracking experiments on beheading, Kella confirmed that he is practically immortal. The next part of the plan is naturally leaking a few tidbits of false information to Seldera's personal servant. Rin did as she was ordered to do, and leaked a fake plan about how Kella was planning to kill Seldera during the war, while the king was busy fighting heaven. Of course, Caldera's servant was incensed. Capitalizing on her reaction, Rin added that the only way to bypass Kella's insane regeneration was by slicing his head off. Back to the present, Rin is gritting her teeth in worry. The crazy plan worked perfectly, but it wouldn't mean anything if the reformed, reckless, and idiotic young lord died anyway. Before you know it, his neck wound has healed, and the color of life has returned to his face. Kella really thought he was done for. His recovery speed must have slowed down because of the mana-imbued dagger. But now that he's fine, it's time to move on to the next part of the plan. Rin was just glad that her master was still breathing. Unable to contain her emotions any longer, she wrapped her arms around him. Unaccustomed to this feeling in both of his two lives, Kella blushed and felt his mind turn to mush. Pushing her away, he tried to lock back into the plan. Before moving on, he graciously severed Rin's servant contract once and for all. With this, she should regain her freedom, no longer bound to a life of servitude. Such a kind decision moved Rin's heart. Now that the contract is no longer in place, he advised her to live the life she always wanted to live with no strings attached. Seeing him marching forth with a sense of dignity made the newly liberated maiden's heart flutter. She remembered the first time they met as kids. The little boy didn't want a servant. He just wanted a friend. Remembering how he treated him years afterward crushed her with guilt. To correct her mistakes, she begged Kella to take her back as a servant once more. Against his wishes, she continued following him through the castle's hidden tunnels. Back in the main event, General Killman is at his last leg, covered in wounds and staggering with one less eye. The Demon King wasn't exactly unscathed either. Hel Khaldun had lost an arm and sustained grievous damages. Surrounded by crafty attacks from all angles, the Demon King is still standing strong. All by himself, Killman admits that he is no match against such a monster. By his estimation, no single human can stop this disaster at all. Looking around, Hel Khaldun assessed that human forces were nearly wiped out. Naturally, the same goes for his soldiers. At this moment, he thought of his children. He accepted the fact that none of them were coming to help him. Instead of wallowing in disappointment, he reminded himself that this was his own fight right from the start. With his last bit of remaining mana, he aims to wipe everything in sight. Meanwhile, Kella and Rin have reached the light at the end of the underground tunnels. Once he gets out, he'll be away from the surveillance of the demon castle. He will be truly free. He was so tunnel-visioned that he almost fell into a trap if it wasn't for Rin's timely interference. She jumped in front of her and summoned a magic shield to defend against malevolent spells. She was right to clutch up as soon as she caught a whiff of blood. Since there's no point in hiding anymore, Heaven assassins ditched their hiding spots. They hid in the tunnels to account for demons trying to flee. It's a mystery how, but they even have this secret exit covered. These assassins aren't playing around. Their sole mission is to make sure that the Demon King's royal lineage is wiped out. From a safe distance, they rained down spells that Rin painstakingly blocked with her rapidly deteriorating shield. As the young lord's willing servant, she is dead set on prioritizing his safety above all, above even her own life. From what Kella can remember, Rin caps out at simple defense magic. She can't hold on for long. Other than that, she can barely use attack magic. She just saved his life twice, and now she's trying to throw away her own just so he can flee. Kella grabbed her by the shoulder, a stern expression on his face. He then threw her to the side and scolded the servant for acting all strong and tough. If she really wants to be his servant so badly, the least she can do is stay alive for a bit longer. Seeing this, the assassins called him an idiot for throwing away his last hope for survival. According to their intel, middle-class magic is good enough to kill Kella, the weakest heir in the Demon King's castle. What their intel didn't account for was the truth. Kella has always been a timid boy. He has the power but never had the heart to use it. With a new soul in charge, that's not the case anymore, which means that the intel humans have is useless. They really thought the son of the Demon King was a simple low-rank scrub. Proving them wrong, Kella dealt with one of the assassins in one punch. They really need to double-check their sources next time. Caught in his hands, another assassin tried to beg for his life before getting crushed. Defeating a Heaven's Mage assassin is no easy task. As the rest of the cloaked gang panicked, Kella directed his bloodlust at them. In a compromised situation, there is one thing that the mages can use, the Light Spear spell. With this technique, they can pool their paltry mana in a single powerful attack. The downside is failing to execute properly would result in a deadly blowback. Sensing the efficacy of the terrible spell, Rin tried to beg her master to fall back, but it was too late. Both of them were impaled by numerous light spears. Wounded, Kella was rattled as he felt completely and utterly paralyzed. Rin was also caught by the petrifying spell. She apologized for failing her master once more. The remaining mages were completely winded but pleased that it worked. Drawing their blades, they strolled with full confidence to finish the job. One of the bastards proposed that they should be rewarded for all their troubles. The restrained servant would be fun to play with before they conclude the mission. Never showing any hint of fear, Rin shouted at the scumbag humans. This is Kella's first look at the humans of this world. Just like in his previous life, humans are still capable of deplorable evils. Turning their attention to the Demon King's son, the mage coated his sword with mana. Kella was literally a dozen steps away from freedom after being beheaded. He can't fall here now, right? As the blade swung, the young lord felt as though time had stopped at a complete standstill. Something or someone is coming. When he opened his eyes, the avatar of his father was before him. At first, he thought the Demon King had concluded the war. If that's the case, his plan of liberation would be ruined. Then, Hel Khaldun started to address him with utmost sincerity. As the Demon King, he's fought countless wars and has considered all possibilities just as many times. In his view, Seldera is a brat who does not have a single inkling of consideration for her fellow demons. Tarme, on the other hand, has no ambition to lead the kingdom. Confused and agitated, Kella asked his father what really was going on. Ignoring his questions, Hel asserted that a Demon King has the ability to pass his mana down to his bloodline before perishing. Though it was only for a very brief amount of time, Hel had come to see that Kella was the best candidate to inherit the throne. Knowing that this would mess with his plans, Kella tried to refuse. But he has no say in the matter. The Demon King had already decided. And so, Hel Khaldun compressed all mana left in his body to his heir and son, Kella Khaldun. Against his will, the young lord was forced to take the dark orb of concentrated power into his body. With a morose look in his eyes, Hel wished for his son to not mourn his father's death and to be like a true demon going forward. Back on the main battlefield, the last bit of life left the severed head of the Demon King. Commander Srills stood speechless, muttering weakly that the Demon King was dead. General Killman had to sacrifice himself to make it happen, but the last-ditched effort worked. Even the remaining soldiers could not believe it. They're looking at the king's corpse. Once it finally sunk in, they all screamed and shouted to celebrate their victory. Unbeknownst to these humans, the king's son is currently assimilating with the royal demonic power. Upon becoming one with the Demon King's mana, the paltry light spears keeping him and Rin in place dispersed like they were nothing. The mages felt the sudden increase in the young lord's mana and cowered. Kella laughed his ass off. In truth, everything worked out perfectly in the end. Now that Hel is dead and he's inherited infinite power, everything has finally clicked into place. The mages desperately looked for an exit strategy now that their mana was tapped out. Searching inside him, Kella can sense an endless void of darkness. The power that Hel gave him is simply too massive to completely grasp at the moment. As the mages backed off in fear, Kella asked them to repeat the salacious threats they were throwing at Rin earlier. Sure, he is a demon by blood, but humans sure do like taking the title with their words and actions. With the juice from his father, dealing with these weak-ass mages was as easy as can be. Hell's power is truly profound, but Kella could feel that tapping into it causes a lot of strain on his body. It seems like he can't quite handle it properly yet. Upon confirming that Rin was fine, the master and servant continued on their way out of this god-forsaken place. Although he's a bad father, Kella still inwardly thanked Hell for making this escape possible. As the Demon King's castle burns in the background, the duo walks through a field of green. For the first time in his life, Kella felt truly free. The possibilities from this point forward are endless. He can go anywhere he wants and be anyone he wants. He can live the life that he desires. While he was basking in liberation, a foreign power coalesced around his body. Before being completely swallowed, Rin identified the fluctuations of magic as a teleportation spell. Hurriedly, he grabbed Rin's hand to bring her to wherever this mysterious spell was taking him. Without hesitation, she steeled her resolve to join him wherever he went. The duo is headed to a place where magic and innovation thrive, but they don't know that yet. When they landed, the two had no idea where the spell took them. Rin initially thought that her master was the one who initiated the teleportation spell, but he denied having anything to do with it. He thinks it was an automated spell that tripped up like an alarm. His father must have prepared it in case he died in battle. Not only were they transported to an unknown land, but all of their lingering wounds were also completely healed. By Kella's estimate, they've probably spent 3 days within the teleportation space. The Demon King must have set the time on purpose, along with the healing magic, in case of an emergency. Setting up 2 high-level spells at once is not a feat that anyone can do. He might be a bad father, but Hel Khaldun cared about the survival of his children. Rin pieced the puzzle together and confirmed that the Demon King was dead. With a smirk, Kella rejoiced at how well his plan panned out. Since the empty throne has been burned down, Rin proposes that his master take over as the next Demon King. Naturally, that's the last thing he wants to do. But Rin had seen the drastic change he went through over the last couple of days. She now sees him as the one true successor of the king's legacy. She vowed to serve him to the best of her abilities until he properly took over the throne by any means necessary. He sighed in defeat and let her do what she wanted for now since he lacked manpower at the moment. After walking for a few minutes, they laid their eyes upon the first clue as to where they really landed. By the looks of the architecture, they are in the country of magic, Arsal, where magical talent is nurtured for the sole purpose of vanquishing demons. As the center of magic, Arsal is currently celebrating the fall of Demon King Hel, praising the light of Talua. The duo was confused as to why the teleportation spell would bring him to the heart of enemy territory. If they're discovered as demons here, a grim fate awaits. Thinking on her feet, Rin used transformation magic to hide her demonic features. She looks like a normal and gorgeous young woman. Kella copied what she did and transformed into a punk with a dyed mullet. Clueless about Arsal, he asked Rin to get him up to speed about the country of magic. According to her, Arsal is a small island country located on the eastern border of Talua. This place is blessed by the giant cryptid Watergore, who lounges nearby. The cryptid's presence also enabled the natural development of magic on the island, producing countless strong mages. More importantly, they have a long-running blood feud with demons under the banner of Talua. Kella can't figure out why his father would send him to this country of all places. Naturally, he wants to get out of this area as fast as possible. However, running away would require a little bit of prep work if they want to do it right. In order to achieve his big-picture goals in this world, magic will be instrumental. There's no better way to deepen his knowledge than to immerse himself in a city filled with magic. The arcane is completely integrated into the lives of the people of Arsal. They even use it in the most common buildings. Some of the structures are entirely dependent on magic. If Kella could learn here, he would be able to flex his gaming knowledge more effectively. But first, they have to get something to eat after being suspended in space for 3 days. Thankfully, Arsal is teeming with trade, and food carts line every corner of the town square. Upon trying the country's famous magic dish pastries, Rin was smitten. One food cart was all it took to become addicted. And so, their plan to stay low-key slowly flew out the window as the two hopped from food cart to food cart. Leading the charge, Rin sniffed out and tried everything she found interesting. Kella is starting to consider leaving her ass in the streets. After a whole day of eating, they found a magic bar to unwind. Inside the bar, people are celebrating the subjugation of the Demon King. Leading the party was none other than Commander Srills of Talkin, who was picking up the tab for the whole place. The drunken bargoers celebrated the greatest mage Arsal had ever produced. Among the crowd were Kella and Rin. A few beers were all it took for the lightweights to get drunk and celebrate with the humans. Having fun, Kella is starting to think that taking a break now and then isn't so bad. While they were drunkenly enjoying the festivity, they caught the eyes of the victorious commander. Her interest was piqued by the odd couple for some unknown reason. A few more rounds later, Kella had to run out of the bar to throw up. They got too excited and drank too much. Sobering up a little, Rin also found it a little disrespectful that they were partying and celebrating the death of the Demon King. Suddenly, a stampede of people came running towards the town square. They were all excited about a new S-rank quest posted for anyone to take on. The last S-rank quest to kill the Demon King just ended, yet the authorities are already putting up another one. Curious, Rin dragged the still nauseous young lord to see what the ruckus was all about. Posted on a castle wall was a bounty poster for the Demon King's son and the exorbitant price for his head. It looks like humans are really trying to put an end to the royal bloodline this time around. Kella almost drunkenly gave out his identity if it wasn't for Rin's timely obstruction. Most people are aware that Kella is supposed to be the weakest out of the Demon King's progeny. That means they can claim an S-rank award for accomplishing a B-rank difficulty quest. Every hunter on the continent must be elated. Hearing demeaning words from the crowd slapped the drunkenness out of Kella. He has to play safe and lay low. That's the safe play for now. As the master and servant left the town square, Rin asked her master what she should call him in public. They can't be going around calling him by his real name after all. After a brief consideration, he asked to be called Chiwu. Hearing the weird name lacking any sort of grandeur, Rin was quite disappointed. Anyways, that S-rank bounty being posted for everyone to see is bad news. Chiwu had already abandoned the thought of spending one more second in Arsal. Hearing them talk about the new S-rank quest, the drunk Commander Srills butted in while holding a mug of alcohol in her hand. He might not be familiar with her, but based on her aura alone, Kella can tell that this woman is a threat. People in the tavern called her the Hope of Arsal. She badmouthed the surviving son of the Demon King, and Kella had to swallow his words and add them to the trash talk. Getting caught by this lady would be the worst-case scenario. Looking at the two with curiosity, the commander pulled them in by the shoulder. She directly asked them if that Demon King bastard's son would pose a problem at all. Inside the tavern, she noticed something peculiar. These two smelled rather strange compared to everybody else. Just as the master and servant were about to flip out, thinking that their ruse had been seen through, the commander threw another curveball. She only singled them out because they smelled like travelers who hadn't taken a bath in a while. Like a good Samaritan, she invited the two to come over, wash up, and get some more drinks at her place. Kella and Rin exchanged a mutually confused glance. Afraid of sounding suspicious, they stiffly agreed to the invitation. And so, they walked to the house of Arsal's Hope, and were forced to stay. Kella was pleasantly surprised that the gorgeous redhead really did offer a cozy hot springs bath to clean his body up. She even threw in a nice cup of tea and some delicious snacks on top of that. Based on their unfamiliar taste, he reckons even these snacks were made with magic. As far as he can remember, he's always wanted to live in the world of fantasy and games. For the first time since arriving in this new world, Chiwu felt like he was living the dream. He's tipsy, well-fed, clean, and he has the power of the Demon King. This isekai thing isn't too bad. Meanwhile, on the other bath, Rin is shivering in fear of being outed as a demon. Sitting next to her was Commander Srills, who was very proud of her big bathtub. Her bathtub is very big, round, and wet. Can you guys see that? She joked that Rin should stop acting so nervous, or someone might think she's a demon. Laughing awkwardly, she tried to play it off. To help her relax, the commander's fingers danced around as a fragrant scent oozed out of her hand. Rin immediately smelled the essence of the holy element, the worst scent for demons. Not only does it smell nasty to their senses, but it also drains demonic mana. If Rin stays in this bath a few seconds longer, her disguise spell will be undone. She wanted to call her master for help, but Kella was busy sipping on his tea and enjoying his hot spring bath. Uncharacteristically, the commander confided to the stranger she just met. Srills thought that all her suffering would vanish once the Demon King was dead. Covering her nose, Rin just wanted to get away from the stink of the holy essence wafting in the air. Disregarding her apparent uneasiness, Srills continued that she was designed and raised to become the ultimate mage. Finally, having had enough, Rin interrupted her trauma dump and ran away. She excused herself, claiming that she needed to use the restroom for a bit. Srills leaned on the edge of the bathtub with an odd smile, her assets glimmering and flushed. Rin quickly got dressed and met up with her master in the halls of the commander's mansion. He had never felt so relaxed before, but this was not the time for leisure. Rin's disguise spell was almost undone, and she's pretty sure that the commander is feeling sussy. That holy scent is an intricate spell that only an advanced mage can use. Not grasping the whole gravity of the situation, Kella wondered if he could get one more quick bath in before they had to book it out of this place. Sensing Rin's unease, the commander covered up her bathtub and asked if her visitors were passing on a second round with her. Rin tried to awkwardly get out of her intense glare. Srills summoned a mana orb and promised to make his guests some more drinks and dishes made with mana. Curious about food magic, the young master was easily persuaded for a second round with the feisty commander. Unbeknownst to them, a pack of mages is starting to gather outside the mansion. They've received some intel about the presence of demons inside. According to some sources, it's not just a demon, but the Demon King's child. This offers a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hit it big. In the living room, Srills is bragging about her holy water drink. Both of her disguised demon guests had to drink it without grimacing, despite the intense burning sensation it brought. With a forlorn look, Srills circled back to what she was talking about with Rin earlier in the bathtub. So, her trauma dump about her life continued. She joined the Talkin' Squad and trained with her life on the line just to kill the Demon King. She has plenty of scars to show how hard she worked. She must have concealed these scars with magic because Rin didn't see them earlier. In truth, she's also missing an eye. Running alongside the right side of her face is an unsightly scar from getting gouged. The commander had gotten used to hiding her imperfections with magic since seeing them reminded her of the pain from the past. As a child soldier, she and other children her age were drilled to hate the Demon King. They formed a squad created with the sole purpose of deposing Hel Khaldun. They were taught to endure all kinds of pain for the sake of the mission. Slowly, she was indoctrinated into the order, adapting their ideology. Before she knew it, her entire life had been dedicated to one clear goal. All she got in return were these scars. Curious, she swiftly went up to Kella, straddled him, and lifted his shirt to check if he also had scars. Upon seeing and caressing his smooth skin without any blemishes and scars, a crazed look appeared in her eyes. Rin's alarm bells are ringing, and so are Kella's. Shril's touch is not only unexpected but also melting his disguise away. Finally, she whispered in his ears and directly asked if he was a filthy demon. Now it's clear that this woman knew what they were all along. Suddenly, rats started scurrying out of her fireplace. These rats were quickly fried by the uninvited visitors, the mages of Arsal. By the looks of it, the commander just brought them to her place to trap the disguised duo. Surprisingly enough, the mages didn't pay attention to either of them. They were focused on the scar in Shril's eyes. They claimed that Heaven's message tipped them off about the fact that the Hope of Arsal is hiding her true self. Shril's of Talkin is a demon that infiltrated Arsal. After getting accused of being a demon, she didn't seem bothered in the slightest. Kella is starting to get lost with all the twists and turns. These mages are not hunting him down. They're after the hero who killed the Demon King. Now that she has no reason to hide her true identity, Shril's uses dark magic to summon her scepter. She confessed that she was also the one who leaked her own secret. Now that she admitted to being a demon herself, there was no reason to hesitate. The mages fired off their most powerful spells all at once. While she might be a demon, she's also the most elite mage of Talkin. A dozen or so trash mages of Arsal can never dream of dealing with just one of her. Afraid that they might get caught in the magical crossfire, Rin begged her master to get out of the way. Before they could move, a dark explosion filled the living room. Densely packed concentrations of mana erupted all at once. When the black smoke cleared, the master and servant were surprisingly unscathed. Shril's easily deflected the seemingly catastrophic cacophony of spells without breaking a sweat. The enigmatic commander of Talkin just protected them. Shril's knew from the start that they were demons. They simply can't hide from her nose. To ease the two, she properly introduced herself as Shril's Khaldun, daughter of the Demon King Hel Khaldun. After having that bomb dropped in front of them, the young master and the servant were speechless. For the sake of time, Shril summoned a tiny speck of mana to explain everything through memory transfer magic. Suddenly, the duo's vision was taken over by a scene from the past. It featured the Demon King and a trusty aide. It was the day when they cracked the code and managed to raise a demon who could hide her horns and demonic power. That day, young Shrills was in awe of the absolute ruler. He told her that his blood runs through her veins, and she will be taking his name as his daughter. Ever since she was born, she had always just been one of the many lab rats raised in secrecy. Every day was like a living hell under the supervision of vicious demons, forcing them to undergo painful experiments. All she could do was grit her teeth and endure for better days. In the end, all the kids in the secret compound died off one by one, leaving her as the sole survivor. At that time, she thought it would only be a matter of time before she followed them to the grave. But her destiny was upended when Hel claimed her as a daughter. Her little heart swelled with honor and joy, eager to serve her Lord Father. That day was also when she got the name Shril's Khaldun. Alongside her name came a mission. She will act as a spy and infiltrate heaven to siphon off information. If it was for her father, the Demon King, she would gladly do absolutely anything. And so, her infiltration began by acting like an injured and innocent kid who wandered near Arsal. Mages thought she was attacked by demons and urgently took her in for treatment. From that point on, her life as the Demon King's spy officially started. Eventually, she worked her way up to Talua as a mage of Arsal. The path upwards was extremely difficult, but she powered through everything that came her way. Finally, she rose up to qualify for the strongest squad in existence, the Talkin Elite Force. 15 years after she infiltrated human society, she was able to finally meet her father once more. This time, on the battlefield. All she wanted to do was run and embrace him, but she couldn't. She knew she had to endure and wait for everyone except General Killman to die. Sreels was stationed at the flank, and her secret role was slowly weeding out the Talkin squad with her magic. That way, she can support her father until General Killman is 6 feet under. Once Talkin is wiped out, she can finally consider his mission a success and return to the castle with Daddy. She wanted nothing more than to start a new life by her father's side, to take on her real name, Shril's Khaldun. However, the battle didn't go down the way she thought it would. The general and the Demon King praised each other for exceeding expectations. As the apex predator, Hel was quite offended that he was being complimented by a mere human. Finally, General Kilman pulled out his last ace in the hole, a final attack containing everything he has, the Spear of Heavens, Martyrs. Mirroring his efforts, the Demon King summoned the Flames of Hell, Magna Lexir. The clash of two ultimate techniques burned hot and bright. Shrills felt a bad premonition. In that instant, she clearly heard her father's voice. For the first time in a decade and a half, he called her daughter by her name. In her final moments, Hel Khaldun gave her one more final order to serve the next Demon King as she had served him, to protect the bloodline until the very end. As tears of mourning poured down her eyes, the clash of heaven and hell swallowed everything in its path. When the nuclear blast died down, the decapitated head of the Demon King was left lifeless. Staring at her father's lifeless remains, Shrills couldn't hold her emotions back any longer. After witnessing the Demon King's demise, backups arrived to clean up the mess, and she had no choice but to continue the ruse and return to Talua. While she was mourning the loss of the most important figure in her life, people from all over the entire continent were jovially celebrating to their heart's content. For the first time in millennia, humans finally caught a dub. From that moment on, Shrills decided that she would retire and move to Arsol, a place she considers a second home. She wanted to start anew, a clean slate. Arsol will be her home base while plotting to avenge her father's death. The plan starts by wiping out the country of magic off the map. Rin was conflicted, while Kella was feeling a pit in his stomach. He thought he finally got away from crazy siblings, but he thought wrong. Even though they're not completely blood-related, another sibling just means another headache. Snapping him out of his thoughts, Shrills claimed that she wouldn't force Kella and Rin to cooperate with her as fellow demons, but she is certain that Arsol is a core threat to all demonkind. The longer they let the center of magic prosper, the bigger a problem it will become, and the sooner her brother, the last hope of demonkin, Kella Khaldun, will die. Her words make sense. Even in the game, Chiwu recalls how important the role of mages is in wars. If they let Arsol be, they'll just continue sharpening the arcane to take his head. Speaking of mages, the first responders were distraught. They're worried that the explosion would attract more attention, and someone else might take credit for their discovery. So, for one more decisive attack, they pooled all their mana together for a kill shot. Thinking about it, these crooked mages must think the two youngsters behind Shrills are normal humans, yet they still attacked without thinking of possible collateral damage. Pissed off, Kella dispelled his disguise, showing off his horns and fangs, and claimed that he'll be dishing out some so-called self-defense. Upon distinguishing the hint of pure energy he was emitting, Shrills' eyes went wide in shock and recognition. There's no doubt about it. She could feel her daddy's power boiling inside this young man. On this night, the siblings waged an endless battle against the center of magic in the human world. In Rin's untrained gaze, it probably looked like a one-sided massacre. Shrills considered Arsol her second home, so she knew its layout like the back of her hand. She started absolute destruction by mowing and burning down the main facilities of the government, followed by the Magic Academy. Kella used the Demon King's mana he inherited to keep up with his sister's efficiency. Together, they subjugated those in power who were drunk on the excitement of the festivities. Without batting an eye, he clawed through their flesh like bags of meat. With impeccable teamwork, the siblings were able to bring the nation of magic, Arsol, down to its knees. The whole place propped up by the arcane burned deep into the night. The smell of burning human flesh wafted in the air. Some of the surviving mages cursed the demons for destroying their home. In truth, Shrills could also say the same thing to these people. They are just retaliating for what these humans did to the demon realm. Arsol is just the beginning. Shrills had already set her sights on the Talkin Squad and the great empire of Talua next. She is determined to put an end to everything. Knowing the scale of such a mission, it seems impossible. Now that they're done decimating Arsol, Kella excused himself and walked away from his sister. Before he could leave, she confided that she recognized the man he was using, who was tied to his real identity. Since she already knows, there's no point in hiding any longer. When he admitted the truth, Shrills was taken aback. Truthfully, she was just throwing out an educated guess. She wasn't 100% sure. Since that's the case, Shrills explained that she's not the Demon King's daughter in a traditional sense. She's more like a mutant made by blood aura. Because of that, she wholeheartedly acknowledges Kella's royal bloodline. She might not look like it because of certain features. Shrills was actually made after Kella was born. That makes him her older brother. Hearing her say that petrified the young lord. Assuming that he also wants revenge for their father, she formally invites him to help in her mission. She doesn't know that revenge is the farthest thing in his mind right now. Hell, he even ran away from home. Upon sensing some unease on her brother's face, the crazy sister had to remind Kella that he was the only remaining bloodline of the king, the father's only remaining child. Afraid that this crazy redhead might turn on them, Rin whispered to her master to just accept the invitation. At this point in time, Kella also feels like he has no other choice but to play along. Calming down upon hearing his decision, Shrills smiled and walked towards their next destination. While he's playing along, Kella intends to milk his mutant sister dry for all of Arsol's magic that she mastered. Revenge is the best excuse to stall for time while gaining a powerful ally. Unbeknownst to them, a mage survived the attack, and he's going straight to Talua to report about this. And so, the capital received the urgent message from the surviving mage. The urgent news quickly reached the ears of Talua's avaricious ruler. Intel about how Commander Srills is an undercover demon, and the destruction of Arsal with the help of Prince Kella Khaldun unsettled the human king. Knowing that they missed the demon king's progeny in Arsal was bad enough, but the prince connecting with a traitorous but powerful commander made it worse. If news of this development gets out, the king is more worried about being turned into a laughingstock than all the lives and infrastructure lost. Holding a steak knife in his hand, the king decreed a manhunt to eliminate Kella Khaldun and Srills before the crown was humiliated. His advisor, Hayden, swore upon his name that he would get it done. Displayed in the king's throne room is the demon king's lifeless, severed head, a show of dominance. Even in death, Hel Khaldun continues to be a thorn in Talua's collective throat. Equipped with hatred for demons, Hayden made a personal vow to extinguish every last bit of demon blood remaining in the world. The loyal advisor enlisted the help of someone called General Killian and his squad to deal with the urgent mission. If you ask anyone in the kingdom who the best knight in existence is, you will get a unanimous answer: Killian. Perhaps he's the only one capable of handling a mission of such urgency and difficulty. In the middle of a mountainous region, a man riddled with battle scars felt rage bubbling inside upon receiving news that his brother, Kilman, had died in battle. According to reports, Kilman sacrificed himself for mutually assured destruction against the Demon King. Killian doesn't care about the details. At the end of the day, he still died at the hands of a demon. The kingdom's messenger used this info as a way to persuade the knight to hunt down Kella Khaldun in the name of Talua. Killian couldn't care less about the kingdom. Since his brother was killed by a demon, he'll simply kill every demon in existence, starting with the king's bloodline. Killian's cold declaration denotes the slaughtering of Kella Khaldun. The scene shifts to the Demon King's son, who is shocked at the hefty meat skewer placed in front of him. Apparently, Mommy Srills has quite the appetite for food. Even Kella's servant is shocked that she can eat so much without gaining any weight. Girls would kill to have that kind of body. The girl even has a theory of her own to eat fast and defecate faster without gaining weight. As if she had been enlightened by the wisdom of the wizards, Rin devours the meat. Meanwhile, our boy is out here assessing Shrill's allegiance to a side. He's glad that at least she's not like his siblings who are desperately trying to take his life on every encounter. Moreover, he was worried that she might harbor some kind of hatred towards him for being one of the main bloodline instead of her. Just to confirm their relationship, he asks Shrills if she hates him or something. After all, he's the biological child and she isn't. To that, Shrills is offended in her response, roaring that she desires to kill him when considering that alone. Typical demon behavior. However, because he shares the same blood of their father, she just can't bring herself to despise him. Also, since he's got their father's blood, right now her only goal in life is to protect him no matter what happens. Different from the siblings he had as part of his family, this woman wanted to protect him. She promises to stake her own life on the line just to make sure nothing bad happens to our boy. Now that's the definition of true loyalty. Her words are so considerate that they swoon our boy in an instant. Rin is out here shocked to see Kella actually blushing before her eyes. Her future boyfriend is about to be stolen, so she quickly offers him her meat. And no, I don't mean it that way, but I know the comment section is ready to comment on that. Rin displays her own loyalty by promising to protect him until she dies. But instead of being flustered, Bro is a bit put off and worried. Apart from that, right now the group suspects that Arsal's situation will soon reach the ears of every major country. That means tons of demon hunters will be on their way to annihilate the threat. This means staying here would be a death ground for them all. That's why the red-haired mage wants them to relocate to a safer location. Kella argues otherwise, countering that it's an excellent place to at least sleep at night. After all, with only a hint of effort, they could turn this place into an impenetrable secret fortress to hold their ground. And so, with the help of Shrills, he got to work. Their first initiative was to alter the terrain so they could create the secret fortress. Next up, in their resting period, he reviewed some of the things he learned from their battles. Recalling how he expended lots of mana, the meditative Kella understands that he should rest as much as he can after using his energy. The same went for his father, who also required plentiful rest periods after a battle. Now for Shrills, she's expended even more mana than him, which is why her rest periods are longer than his own. In the end, they were able to recover over time and protected themselves with the help of the secret fortress that was crafted. In the next scene, we turn to the perspectives of our enemies. The Talkin's second squad is called the Talkin of White, and this squad boasts the most powerful knight on the continent, Killian. The king is glad to see the finest warriors assembled to slay the remaining demons. He's excited just to witness their arrival. This squad is the strongest squad ever, but Killian appears indifferent, and in his short training period, he's grown even stronger than last time. His friend believes that General Kilman would have been very happy with Killian's progress if he were still alive. Deed is then smacked for speaking about a delicate matter so easily. Audria seems to be the same as always. Another subordinate of Killian questions if they should really be listening to the king's orders. After all, their anger can't be satiated even after the killing of Kella Khaldun as the Demon King's son. Killian apologizes to Kalka, stating that he's got something to show to Curdly first. In the palace, Killian comes face to face with the beheaded trophy piece of the Heaven's Kingdom. Even after the Demon King's death, Killian is just as pissed at the loss of his brother. The rest of his teammates are observing in their own way, while Curdly confirms to the team captain that their tracking spell will work with the headpiece alone. The Great White Mage prepares her spell, reasoning that the bloodstains should be enough for her to track down the location of the bloodline. Killian coldly tells the Demon King's headpiece that he's going to personally enjoy slaughtering the rest of his kind, and he's hoping that Hel Khaldun gets to see all of it. The following morning, Shreels is heavy on her orders. She wants them to get started because she expects the arrival of the strongest squad of Tolkien. Not even Rin knows about them. The red-haired mage explains that in Talua, no one truly even believed that the first squad would be capable of taking down the Demon King on their own. They were basically going in as the experimental group to be used as a test. The real squad that is supposed to be only the best warriors, second to none and basically demon-killing machines, is the Squad of White. The Tolkien of White is led by Killian, the younger brother of the late general. The really troublesome part is that Kilman, who basically ended up defeating the Demon King, is even weaker than his brother. Though Shreels does not want to admit it, the Tolkien of White is much more capable than Kilman's squad, to the point that it is comparable for them to even imagine. Now that's terrifying. Kella is concerned while Rin displays visible nervousness. She doesn't know how they stand a chance against Talua. To that, Shreels explains that the Tolkien of White was trained in isolation, which means it will take a while for them to get together and come back. Until that happens, they've got to get started with Talua and end the battle soon. However, it won't be easy. Talua is way bigger than Arcel, so even Kella understands that luck won't be the deciding factor in this battle. And if luck is out of the question, he must do something. He argues that with his bounty quest already on the fly, it's possible that the Tolkien of White has already banded together. None of them know it, but he's actually right in this case, as we saw in the previous scene. Kella explains that it would be stupid for all three of them to attack Talua without backup. For now, they need to prioritize building manpower, build their own base, and fight back that way. It's an interesting idea to Rin. Kella goes on to explain that an entire army will be more than capable to handle a squad, even if it was the toughest squad in the continent. Top it off, their base won't fall, even in the worst outcome of the soldiers of Talua invading them. Kella intends to construct the most powerful dungeon. His plan stumps Shreels and surprises Rin. The thing is, there's no point in taking on battles that are too uncertain for them to win, because if they do take that approach, the end result will be that of what happened to their father. So the correct response to this situation is to build the strongest dungeon against the Tolkien of White, and use that to wage war against Talua. It's an impressive approach that even Shreels seems to take a liking to, and she's gained respect for him and his creative strategic approach. Meanwhile, our boy is just glad he was able to piece together a small plan in the heat of the moment. Shreels is thrilled to go on and build up their manpower first, especially since she's got enough connections to take care of that. Rin and Shreels are oddly excited for war, which should be the opposite of how they should be reacting. But Kella is rather surprised that both of the girls actually liked his idea to that extent. For now, this is the best way to stall for time. He intends to make his own world where no one will ever be able to interrupt him. The map that he could never create in real life can finally be created in this world to build the life he always wanted. Turning towards the red-haired mage, he asks Shreels if she knows a bunch of trustworthy demons. Fortunately, she's got a bunch of them as her contacts. Kella explains that they're going to need someone who has vast knowledge about the geographical location. Understanding that, Shreels realizes that there is someone like that. So their next trip is to go and see this mystery person. Along their journey, Kella was taught Arsol's magic through Shreels and learned more about the world. However, the magic seemed complex, and it wasn't something he could learn in a brief period of time. Luckily, thanks to the effects of the Demon King's blood, his adaptive abilities increased, and he was able to recreate Shreel's spells faster than usual. Kella is glad that he's learning at a faster rate, and with every improvement made, he thinks he's getting closer and closer to his goals. 4 days flew by in an instant, and their journey was about to meet its destination. Rin is surprised that a demon lives in such a barren location, though Shreels explains that the place wasn't always like this. It's only because of the Tolkiens that it was reduced to such a pitiful degree. Sensing the arrival of someone powerful, Shreels orders both of them to stay still no matter what happens. Right before them, the powerful demon makes a strong landing, thinking that the Tolkien squad has come to ruin this place again. He goes on to thrust a spear into Shreel's heart, but she's so badass, she doesn't even flinch and simply takes it like a champion. She understands that most of the demons have yet to hear of her existence, while Rin is terrified why the mage is letting herself be stabbed without confessing the truth about herself. Kella orders his servant to remain quiet, stating that they should allow them to have a moment to themselves. The demon and his men question why Shreels isn't fighting back, believing that she sees them as inferior and not worth her time. Apologizing for all the things that occurred on behalf of Tolkien, Srills happily gets down to eating their wrath if it helps them feel better about their anger. Hands down my favorite character in this story. The demon is shocked to witness a human enacting the same symbolic pose of their kind. Srills then finally confesses the truth, remarking that she too is a fellow demon and that she apologizes for her actions. This shocks the group even more, because they vividly remember her coming out with the Tolkien squad last time. Kella finally breaks his silence, declaring that he's the final remaining child of the Demon King, Hel Khaldun, and with his authority, he confirms the weight of her words. Just his sheer magic energy alone is enough to confirm to them that he's the Demon King's son. They immediately get down to pay him the proper respect he so deserves, enacting the same pose of their kind. The demons fully offer their support to the successor of their king, and so far their mission to gain a small army is turning out just right. Srills is happy that even the others are respecting him as the rightful heir to the throne. Meanwhile, Kella is starting to believe that he might just end up commanding an actual army of his own in this life. The arrival of the great Demon King's son is celebrated loudly as the Earth Demons cheer their support for him. The elders are so happy to see him around, and are even ready to accept any orders from him. Kella looks around, observing the architectural magic used. The structures are different from the one used at the castle and at Arsal. The really impressive part? The city doesn't have any magic imbued inside of its structures. This was all made with raw materials, and the geographical placement of the city is also excellent for their missions. He wasn't expecting such a large city to be hidden so well underground. The Earth Demons rarely ever came to the surface after all. He turns to the mage, agreeing with her thoughts. They do need the help of the Earth Demons. Srills also suggests recruiting the perfect warrior to become a part of their army. Kella is intrigued by her words, while Srills continues that the Tolkien discover the city on their way to the Demon King's castle. And the moment they discovered it, Kilman began rampaging hell against it, declaring that he would not permit the existence of even a single demon. So he started slaughtering the demons ruthlessly using the soldiers of Talua. Under his orders, the forest that rested on top of the underground city was incinerated for good. This cornered the Earth Demons to the point of near extinction. But then something happened. One warrior came to the front, vowing to be the voice of justice. He argued that the humans were ruthless for killing little children who didn't even know how to fight. This prideful warrior did not want a single one of Kilman's men to pass him and lay a hand on children. Shocked to see a demon risking his own life to protect the children, Kilman found respect in him and asked for the warrior's name. Douglas roared loudly as the son of the Earth Demons. General Kilman almost pitied Douglas for not being born a human, but to the demon's shock, General Kilman stopped the massacre and told his squad to halt the mission and prioritize advancing to the Demon King's castle. Douglas couldn't even believe it, while Srills departed by saying that one demon's bravery was enough to save their entire tribe. Douglas is LeBron, such a likable character. Anyway, that's how the Earth Demons lived to see another day. Srills recalls the story of how he stood his ground. The story is impressive enough to Rin, who immediately takes a liking to the man. Meanwhile, Kella is out here gathering his thoughts. He thinks Douglas would be an excellent addition to his army. While having a feast, he requests to meet Douglas immediately. Unfortunately, Douglas is known for his stubbornness, and even the leader of the Earth Demons thinks they should opt for some other warrior in his place. However, Kella is firm in his stance and demands to meet Douglas at once. The scene cuts to their encounter, and just like the tribe leader said, Douglas refuses to follow the orders of the son of the Demon King. He argues that he's not obligated to obey the successor despite his ranking. Kella amuses the possibility of him forcing Douglas's participation. To that, the prideful warrior states that he'll give up his life fighting to die for that decision. Kella doesn't understand his decision to remain stationed in the city. The guy explains that he spent his entire life in this place, and that's why he's got a duty to protect his cherished motherland. Kella finally understands what they meant when they called him a stubborn guy. Douglas apologizes for this quality of his. It's an unfortunate thing, really, and the interaction reminds Chiwu of the time he tried recruiting an orc in the game. He thinks there's no point forcing the situation. After all, the man is willing to die for his cause. Kella then goes outside, remarking how the architecture of the city is even better than he imagined. Right now, he's desperate to find someone who knows the Earth Demons from the inside and out to help him. Meanwhile, Rin and Srills are out here getting drunk like clowns and not helping at all. Kella's frustrated that they're not even doing their jobs. Fast forward to this man also getting his ass drunk having tasted the finest beer. All three of them are basically operating on a single shared brain cell at the table, while the Earth Demons are overjoyed to see their leaders having fun. They're also brought to their resting chambers shortly afterwards. Kella resumes his rest, not knowing that a bunch of demons have come to his room to secretly assassinate him. With an axe in hand, the reveal is shocking as Douglas is about to kill the Demon King's successor for his cowardice. He unloads the axe and connects the hit. Does this seem like the end of our boy? You thought wrong. Douglas is stunned that his target was able to dodge even in such a vulnerable position. Kella misses the axe by an inch, and remarks that he's finally certain of how the situation is holding up now. He pounces out of bed, while the rest of the rebels attempt to end his life for being a coward. Then we get a clearer view of Kella's thoughts. When he first met Douglas, he wondered why the warrior was making separate weapons that weren't supposed to be a part of the smithy, and the restraints he saw, they just looked too small to fit an orc. As he was walking around, he could also tell that multiple people were tailing him in secret. After that, he became even more wary of his surroundings and quickly realized that there was also a wall with a magical barrier coated inside. This barrier was so subtle that if he hadn't inherited the power of the Demon King's mana, he wouldn't have been able to tell that it was coated with magic. Then, he also recalled how in Shril's version of the story, Douglas stood his ground protecting the children of the Dark Elves. However, upon close inspection of the city, he couldn't locate a single Dark Elf around. That's how everything started falling into place inside his head. And now, Kella makes his advance, sharply cutting past all of his enemies in a singular motion and defeating them all. With Douglas on the ground, he confirms to the warrior that Douglas never stated to the general that he wanted to protect the Dark Elves. Instead, Douglas only mentioned that he wasn't going to hand them over to them. This means the so-called brave and prideful warrior never really cared about protecting the children in the first place. He simply didn't want them to be taken away from him. Kella's cold assessment of reality terrifies the scumbag, who is at a loss for words. Kella then amuses a question. Should they finally undo the magic barrier that he placed so meticulously? In the next scene, the son of the Demon King has Douglas revealed as a traitor. The man who they revered to be a great warrior turned out to be a lying clown. Also, Kella is convinced that every Earth Demon was also a part of the plan. This means they were using Douglas to assassinate him in secret, as even the filthy tribe leader is shocked that Douglas failed to execute the mission. Kella is pissed, demanding the Earth Demons to stay put, otherwise he will slaughter their warrior. The Earth Demons unveil their true nature, calling Kella a coward even though they worshipped him only a while ago. Facing the same magical wall he sensed from earlier, Kella orders his hostage to open the door immediately. Since he doesn't have any other options but to comply, Douglas unlocks the door, revealing the dark reality. The elves he was looking for and their children sat terrified and enslaved. Kella is mortified to find them starved and in an even worse state than he envisioned. Shrills and Rin also come around checking on his health, confirming his suspicions. They're even more shocked to see the fate of the Dark Elves. Our boy orders the mage to take one Dark Elf from the group and transfer their memories to him using memory transfer magic. I love this approach. So she gets to work, telling him that it's going to be less vivid but still doable. Kella awaits her spell. She casts the spell on each hand, and the process of memory transfer initiates at last. These memories come from the perspective of a male Dark Elf, who calls this place a living hell. And yeah, just a reminder, it's a guy, but I bet his appearance threw you guys off. His mother was forced into having children, and every single female Dark Elf met the same fate. Of the young children that were born, they were quickly handpicked by the human nobles who took them away. The young elves were sold for tons and tons of money, profiting the Earth Demons with their business. Sometimes, the adult elves who were captured from the outside world would tell them how the world was filled with beauty. There was a beautiful horizon and waves of clear oceans, food that was delicious, and there was endless beauty. But that was only the case for the outside world. You see, for the children born here, they only knew what it was like to be enslaved. The Dark Elves were bred for only one purpose, and their lifelong dream was to have their own children be freed. That way, at least the later generations couldn't meet the same fate as them. Having experienced the full painful weight of the woman's memories, Kella is brought to a godlike rage. He swears at the scumbag race of the Earth Demons who conducted such a horrifying business in the underground city. His anger is so uncontained that our boy chucks a monstrous hook against Douglas's face, but I doubt the pain is even a fraction of the pain that the Dark Elves endured. The warrior is pushed back into a tree. Shrills has the same reaction as Kella. Meanwhile, the bastard confirms that they were smuggling the Dark Elves from the beginning. After all, they were a rare breed that were in demand by the human nobles. Known to be loved by nature, the Dark Elves helped them live in locations that brought them peace and safety. But this bastard thinks that makes them a target and a reason to become a breeding livestock. Hearing those pathetic words, Shrills is in the mood to end the demon's life. Douglas roars that they can't do anything for their own survival with the death of the Demon King, so they have to resort to this business to survive. But Kella, oh boy, he is pissed. He remembers how miserable his original life had been, the struggles he endured from his family. But the pain and suffering that these children experienced is far greater than the life that he endured. He refused to stay put and do nothing in a time like this, especially when such horrors are taking place before his eyes. Declaring Shrills and Rin, he believes that it's time for the group to complete Kilman's job. Now that's a bone-chilling order, but even the red-haired mage agrees with this approach, believing that these guys were traitorous monsters from the start who betrayed their fellow race. Kella is done messing around and fully intends to annihilate every single Earth Demon there is. Douglas, on the other hand, seeks the help of his comrades, seeing as though their numbers are higher than the three of them. The battle, or should I say the massacre of the Earth Demons, begins with Rin blocking their attacks, Sriel's casting her great magic while roaring their betrayal against the great demon king's own flesh and blood. The Earth Demons insult our boy for being a coward who shouldn't be used as a leader for their kind. But Rin, his most loyal servant, deems this as nonsensical, as Kella is destined to become the next demon king even with their disapproval. Speaking of our boy, he's out here throwing hands like a man, understanding that it was no longer a game but a part of his life. He needed to change something with his powers. Delivering a powerful kick to Douglas's pathetic face, he refuses to back down. Meanwhile, the Dark Elves are surprised. They've never once had someone fighting for their sakes. The one from before realizes that they must help these people win the battle. Even though the others try to stop Wood from intervening, he believes that this is their only opportunity to escape a life of torture. They must act now. The word torture rings loudly in their minds. The memories of being brutally abused triggers a traumatic response from Wood. Kella notices this, and turns to Douglas, questioning if he can hear the cries of pain that he doled out on the innocents. He will make sure that the Earth Demons suffer the same wrath. Seeing as the situation has come to his disadvantage, Douglas decides to take severe measures and swallows some kind of berry. It's actually a magic earth ore, and he recommends the Earth Demons to each swallow their own. This fight is one for their survival, so they quickly follow Douglas's instructions. Rin is shocked. She had only read about the earth ores in myths and stories. Meanwhile, the Demon King's son has no idea what it does. The mage reveals that upon consumption of an earth ore, the demon's lifespan is severely shortened, but their strength is amplified by dozens of times. Now this is really bad for our heroes. The Earth Demons begin transforming at an alarming rate, their bodies morphing to kill the Demon King's son. Douglas now resembles a mindless monster as he roars a declaration. Kella displays clear concern, noticing how their demonic energy was indeed amplified. In return, he can't even make use of his full powers of the Demon King, not in the state he's currently in. Douglas lashes out in an effort to unload a monstrous punch against our boy. Kella comprehends the gravity of the situation, and at this rate, fears that the attack will leave him brutally injured. But to his fortune, a bunch of wooden vines erect from the ground, stopping the Earth Demon's attack and strangling him in place. The conjurer of this attack isn't Sril's, but a dark elf, who refuses to be tortured again, vowing to never meet the same fate. Wood's courage strikes fear in the hearts of her own allies, who think that the elf has endangered her life. Douglas is pissed and ominously makes a promise to torture the elf until death. But that won't be happening anytime soon, not on Kella's watch, who declares that he will never allow a dark elf to be tortured again. His piercing attack has punctured the demon's body fully. Then, remembering Wood's name, Kella confesses that he's found a liking to the dark elf. Douglas felt a sting of betrayal, oblivious to his own horrifying actions. He thought he did the dark elf a favor by raising him, but now he is so mad that he wants to kill them all. Kella wasn't expecting this guy to unlock even greater power with the expense of his anger. His body became bigger as he latched a power punch and smacked our boy with the full weight of its force. The attack sent him crashing into a wall, as Kella found himself stun-locked at how powerful the earth magic stone could force a demon to become. Douglas isn't finished. He targets Wood next, vowing to kill the dark elf for good. The monstrous creature grabs him by the neck, promising to rip the elf's head right off. His hand crunches and forces the elf to experience a world of pain. Even Kella is terrified at the state of Douglas, who is now even more focused on killing Wood than assassinating the Demon King's son as his original target. The dark elf moans in agony, while Kella senses the critical situation and a need to form a long-ranged attack. With his powers, he searches dark and deep for something that can help him save the elf's life. All of a sudden, he enters a spiritual state in a black void. In this void, a dark figure laughs at him as he reminds the boy that this is supposed to be his own consciousness. Kella demands to know the dark figure's identity, who claims if he's interested in asking a better question, perhaps a question on how he should save his friend's life. Even though time has slowed down considerably in his consciousness, they still need to act quickly. Recalling Wood's condition, Kella begs for a way out to save the dark elf. The dark being inside his mind declares that the boy is unready to handle the full scale of his father's powers. Be that as it may, eventually his body and mind will cooperate in unison with one another to handle the Demon King's powers. Kella gets straight to the point. He doesn't want to hear long explanations when there's a life to be saved on the line. The dark figure reveals that there is one ability he could use. Before leaving, the dark figure drops a bombshell. He reveals Kella's name from his original life and world as Kang Chi-Woo. Whatever this thing is, it seems to be aware of our boy's past life. Before Kella's able to comprehend the situation fully, he exits the void and focuses on the weapon spiritualizing on his hand. It's his father's fire arrow, which is just the thing he needs to fire a long-ranged shot. Roaring at Wood to protect his body, Kella unleashes his ferocious projectile. Douglas is starstruck at the beam of light coming his way, while the Dark Elf uses this chance to expend his magic into casting a wooden shield. Kella proclaims the end of Douglas's terrorizing axe as the projectile disintegrates the Earth Demon. The inflicted pain is so agonizing that the Earth Demon is crying out to be saved. Thankfully, Kella saved the elf in time with a direct hit. Douglas incinerates, and he is inevitably devoured by the blue flames. Meanwhile, Kella questions the identity of the mystical figure he met in his consciousness. Anyway, apart from Douglas, they still have plenty of other Earth demons to deal with, starting off with the ones targeting Rin and Shrills. Unfortunately, the mage can't use the best of her magic because of the limited space, but Kella's here for their rescue, as by harnessing his father's powers, he launches multiple arrows from the distance, each of them striking down the Earth demons in successive fashion. The mage is really impressed seeing his magic powers finally take form and become even stronger. Now, he's acquired a new technique to his set of abilities, a power that he's really proud of. In the next scene, we get to see the conclusion of the battle. The Earth demons are done for. Shrills didn't expect the gemstones to be even more powerful than the rumors, while Rin is surprised to learn that they eat away at the demon's lifespan for power. They're still a mystery, so they're going to be used for future investigation. As for the remaining Dark Elves, Kella officially declares them freed from their shackles. He doesn't want them to do anything but live their lives freely from now on. Hearing the word freedom comes across as oblivious and unreal to the elves, who were bound by chains their entire lives. Kella grants them permission to leave the city and find their freedom. At last, their dream of acquiring freedom for their children has been granted to them. Paying respects to Kella and his allies, the elves bow down in support. Unfortunately, they were unable to make use of the Earth demons as part of their battle force. Shrills is disappointed to find out that she and Kilman were basically manipulated by the traitorous clowns. Maureen remarks that there's nothing they can do in this instance but accept the reality. As for Kella, he's interested specifically in Wood, as he goes on to ask if the Dark Elf was captured from the outside world. The Dark Elf confirms this fact, so Kella goes on to assume that Wood doesn't have any family to live with. That fact too is confirmed by the Dark Elf with a sorrowful yes. Our boy then invites him into their group, offering him a chance to become a guide to help navigate the terrain. Wood emphasizes that he's not an Earth demon, and he's not even particularly talented at navigation. With a heavy heart, he states that he won't be of any help to their group. Kella promises him that Wood is one of the Dark Elves who are loved by nature, and he impresses the Demon King's son by showing courage in the face of danger. Those two reasons are more than enough to make him earn their trust. So once again, Kella requests his hand. Awestruck by his words, Wood struggles to form his words. For the longest time, he's only known suffering. He didn't even know what his parents were like. The Dark Elf was left abandoned and was kidnapped, enduring a life of suffering. This hellish life is the only life he knew as the Earth demons took his joys. He felt like there was no escaping this life. And now that he's being granted freedom, the pitiful Dark Elf truly questions if he's allowed to have this freedom. Tears trickle down the sides of his face as he innocently requests to follow Kella's command, almost as if he himself doesn't believe that this day has come. Kella corrects the Dark Elf, stating that he's not going to order him around. Instead, they'll work together. And with that, a bond between the Dark Elf and the son of the Demon King was formed. By the night, Kella's friends had taken care of the Earth demons and freed the Dark Elves. At first, he was worried sick that something might happen to them in the outside world. But remembering how they're loved by Mother Nature itself, he wished for their best. After all, wherever they continued to live on, it would be miles better than the hell they once knew. Wood sees them off, and the new group of 4 is banded. Rin, on the other hand, is out here policing the newcomer already, but Wood is a good listener and is ready to follow their instructions. Shrills believes they should find a place close to a river. Thanks to his sharp senses, the Dark Elf points to water in a specific direction. Rin is impressed by the newbie and praises him for his skills, while Kella inquires the reason behind looking for a river. The mage tells him that they simply can't keep on walking forever. It's best that they use a river to their advantage. Rin thinks they're gonna go catch a dragon, but her hopes are dashed as the mage confirms otherwise. Shrills thinks their luck is so crap they won't even find a unicorn, much less a damn dragon. Kella's fine with following Wood's coordinates, and the group moves along as per his instructions. A while passes, and what do you know? There are unicorns after all, and they're enjoying drinking water from the mystical clear river. But upon sensing the might of a ferocious predator, they run away. And here's the funniest part. There is in fact a flipping dragon there. Back to the group, Shrills keeps on reminding the dumb girl that they're not going to find a winged beast. Since we haven't checked on Killian's squad in a while, let's see how they're holding up. Curdley sees an Earth demon pleading for help, and realizes that this demon is the only one of his kind that survived the massacre. The white mage recalls their discussion. Deed was complaining why the tracking spell failed to work against their targets. Curdley explains that she doesn't have an answer for that, as she can detect multiple targets in different locations. They weren't expecting so many children of the Demon King being left behind. Because of that, they can't really pinpoint which one is Kella from the group. Curdley confirms this fact, which causes further annoyance to the group because they're practically going to be wasting time in trying to hunt them all down. Killian, as their captain, suggests exactly that choice. He plans to exterminate all of the demons spread throughout the continent, starting with Kella, as he makes a request for him. The white mage then offered to teleport to that location on her own, which would be a much faster way of confirming. This allowed the rest of the Talcon squad members to exterminate the Demon King while she searched for them. So that's how she teleported here using her spell, vanishing before their eyes. Gojo Satoru's genocidal son over here, on the other hand, is planning to wipe out the demons for good. Having stepped foot in the land, she senses traces of the boy's energy here, which makes her wonder if Kella came to pay a visit. The last Earth Demon confirms this fact, explaining how the boy wiped out their tribe. She then interrogates about his location. Unfortunately, the Earth Demon doesn't know and requests to be saved. But before he can even finish his sentence, a bullet is shot clean through his head, ending his miserable existence. The white mage is ruthless, and she has no need for useless demons. Her next goal is to follow the traces of Kella's energy and proclaim his name. In the next scene, our squad finally steps into the heavenly location of the river. Our boy is impressed by the Dark Elf's tracking skills. The fact that Wood was able to sense the river days ago from that much distance says enough about his talent. Meanwhile, Rin is policing him like the usual, reminding the Dark Elf not to get cocky as a newbie. Kella suggests getting some food since they've not indulged properly for a few days. Rin is happy to serve them because she's an excellent fisherman. The river has plenty of fishes for them to catch, but to their shock, the Dark Elf caught them all in a mere instant. Wood reveals his ability to control the flow of water using his powers of nature, which was how he launched the fish right to him. Srills is really happy to find him among their team. Meanwhile, the jealous Rin is annoyed she couldn't be the one to be praised. She even tries to start the fire, but Srills is a step ahead and casts a blaze instantly using her magic. Yet again, poor Rin appears useless to their team. Depressed, she goes away sulking by herself. Later, the group shares the food thanks to Wood's contributions. Kella sees Rin being a Debbie Downer and wonders why she's not eating. Because of her laziness, Srills takes away Rin's portion, further adding onto the poor girl's stress. For a while, Kella has taken notice of his servant's sad state. To make her happy and feel useful, he expresses a request to find fruit. The loyal servant rises to the occasion to find some for him right away, and even though Wood offers to locate the fruits in a second, Bro urges him to stop because he knows she'll be sad. He entrusts Rin with this super important mission, and she launches away to execute the task with glee. Srills is amused by Kella's servant, calling her a Mirton. Also, she takes notice of the boy's consideration for the girl and even teases him for falling in love. Kella denies the accusations and acts like he really wanted to eat fruits. Apart from that, they ask Wood if they can really find unicorns around. Luckily they can, because he can find traces of their scent around. Kella, on the other hand, is really hoping for a cool-ass dragon to come popping out of nowhere for them to use. Srills emphasizes that there's no such thing, just like she's pointed out tirelessly before. The scene cuts to the loyal servant, who's happily searching for fruits and finally locates them on top of a tree. She leaps away to snatch the apples, not knowing what creature she's stepping on. Suddenly the ground underneath shakes, but it's not exactly the ground but a wild dragon looking at her dead in the eye. This girl's luck is truly the worst for casually running into a terrifying dragon. It was at this moment she knew, she fudged up. The girl lets out a loud scream at the sight of a dragon, even though she was so excited to meet one before. Kella learns from the Dark Elf that he can sense the natural energy of their planet. It can't be explained through words, but that's basically what happens. He senses the energy coming up from a distance. His explanation is intriguing enough, and it causes our boy to wonder if it's similar to looking at a map. Srills is happy because they've struck gold with this ability, as they can locate dungeons easily now. However, the only downside is that he can only search up to a certain distance, which makes the Dark Elf doubt his utility. Kella wonders if it's possible to hone this ability via training. The Dark Elf confirms that there is one way to increase proficiency, and that's by consuming the clairvoyant stone of a 1,000-year-old dragon. It's going to amplify his ability by several hundred times, which is freaking insane. Even Kella's like, what the actual fudge did you just say? Several hundred times is a big upgrade. But like Shrill said, finding a dragon like that isn't going to be easy, and there's no way for them to properly slay one either. Intrigued by the mage's description of the dragons, Kella wonders just how powerful the winged creatures are. Srills elaborates that dragons are supposed to be the apex predators in their world. Also, they naturally despise demons. The only people who have ever lived to tame dragons were humans with exceptional mental fortitude, which is an ironic thing as pointed out by Kella, who remarks that the weak humans are capable of taming strong dragons. Of course, the boy doesn't understand the weight of Srill's words, because she knows the nature of dragons much better. More importantly, the clairvoyant stone of a dragon seems even more impossible to find. Srills emphasizes that they shouldn't get worked up over chasing miracles over here when it's a lost cause. Kella ultimately accepts the bitter truth, though he wishes for a way for them to find one for the Dark Elf. And back to the scene of the fruit-hunting servant. She's out here running for her life being chased by a ferocious dragon. To Sriel's utter shock, she can't believe they actually ended up encountering a giant dragon. The group channels the energy of an Olympic runner as anyone would in this situation, and they all run the fudge away. Not even the mage had seen a dragon of this size before her eyes. Rin keeps on screaming, which only further draws the dragon's attention towards them. Their loud screaming is heard by the white mage Curdly, who's almost made her way to them. After some time, the dragon finds itself lost, questioning where the tiny demons went. The group luckily saved their asses by hiding behind boulders. This causes the dragon to finally give up on its hunt as it flies away. Sriels immediately roars at the damn useless servant who brought a freaking dragon when her mission was to get fruits instead. Meanwhile, the dark elf is still admiring the dragon's size. He assumes that this kind of dragon must have at least lived for over a millennium. Kella's in the middle of being amazed when Curdly gives me a jump scare by casually commenting on the dragon bearing a clairvoyant stone. Not even Kella processed that she was around, let alone the rest of the group who is like, where the hell did this chick even spawn from? He asks about her identity, while Sriels jumps up in terror upon noticing the Tolkien of White's famous mage. The group can't believe that they've run into a member of the squad, and that they've already been tracked down. They immediately assume a battle formation to defeat her at once, but the fearless mage merely stands awaiting. She's supposed to be a cold-blooded mage with no room for mercy, despite her majestic looks, which I'm sure are making some of you fawn over her beauty. Kella is out here having a panic attack, realizing his peaceful life is going to be ruined, as his luck is the absolute worst for encountering one problem after another. Not to mention that he's facing a terrifying mage as his opponent. Curdly merely tells them to calm down instead of opening fire, exclaiming that there's no point in taking the fight. This comes as a shock to Kella's system, who wasn't expecting to hear those words. The white mage addresses the traitor of the Tolkien squad, and argues that even Sriels must know that fighting is pointless here. After all, this chick is so freaking powerful that she could end their lives with a single spell. Terrified of her might, Kella seeks confirmation from the red-haired mage. Unfortunately, she's right. She really can end their existence with a single attack. She alone is way stronger than the entire group combined, which is crazy when you consider the fact that Killian is probably miles ahead in his own squad. The main characters in this story are seriously cooked. The servant is frightened that there's no way out of this one, but Curdly explains that there's no point in fighting. After all, if they simply follow her without taking the fight, she promises they'll live for a while. Kella refuses to oblige until he hears where she's taking them. The white mage happily reveals that she's going to take them right back to her captain, Killian, who is awaiting her return. Sriels understands that the squad of white is already on the move under their master's orders. Curdly emphasizes that their leader is searching for Kella, so he must be taken. But the son of the Demon King is unrelenting and unveils that he's going to die even if he follows her. The white mage coldly remarks that at least this way, the boy will be able to survive for a while longer. This situation has completely flipped the understanding of this world over inside Kella's head. He had assumed that this was the miraculous world he always dreamed of, but now he's facing death. Our boy fully understands that obeying this woman practically confirms his death, which is why he's willing to die on his knees fighting death instead of accepting it handily. Commanding the power of his bow, he unleashes an arrow, which is casually blocked by the mage. The rest of the squad unleashes their own range of attacks, with Sriel's spells being unable to penetrate Curdly's barrier. The same goes for the Dark Elf's attacks, and in the end, her defensive barrier reigns supreme, protecting her from all harm. Interestingly enough, Rin is willing to prove her worth in this battle, and wants to show her master that she can be useful too. So that's why she's extremely cautious this time. Or so she thought, because she stupidly used a close-ranged attack against her barrier, causing Sriels to scream at her to run. The white mage uses this opportunity to show them just how outclassed they truly are. Unfortunately, Rin is hit with a powerful ice magic attack and launched to the side. As for Curdly, she coldly declares that she's fine with recovering Kella's dead body to her captain at this point. The mage unleashes a barrage of blizzard projectiles from the sky. Luckily, Sriels was able to cast a barrier of her own to protect them all. Even Rin. The piercing projectiles struck the barrier hard. Meanwhile, Rin apologized to her master for being so reckless and useless. But even Sriels is annoyed, pointing out that this is no time to feel doubtful of her abilities. Her barrier is about to break. Kella questions if she's got anything in her arsenal to counter the white mage's projectiles. Unfortunately, Sriels explains that they wouldn't stand a chance even if she did possess a special spell like that. Curdly is out here opening gates of Babylon like Gilgamesh and launching hundreds of sharp projectiles. The shield is shattering, and the moment that happens, they're all doomed. The entire group is desperate for a way out of this sticky mess. Kella desperately hopes to find a way using his brain. Finally, an enlightening strategy hits him. He recalls the existence inside of his consciousness and hopes to meet him again. Bro begins to channel his own energy from the inside, which comes across as a naive move by Sriels, as his mana pressure would only weaken the shield from the inside. Kella concentrates his full might and pleads for the same dark figure to meet him again. But that doesn't happen. Here's what does happen though. The giant dragon from earlier senses a battle taking place nearby and is drawn to Kella's outrage. Sensing the Demon King's energy coming from the boy, she remarks that it must only come out when he forces the use of his powers. Now, she finally understands the reason she couldn't locate him earlier. Be that as it may, the White Mage is fully convinced that this battle will be their last. This is the end for Kella Khaldun. Meanwhile, our boy is focusing hard, practically begging to be given another chance to enter his state of consciousness again. He assumes that it would activate upon a near-death experience, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Shriel's barrier is at its limits and is finally shattered completely. The projectiles are fully thrusted in Kella's direction, and this seems like the end for them all. Or so you thought. A plot twist. The giant dragon has come to their aid, looking mightier than ever as it blocked all of the arrows. Kella is stunned to see the dragon helping the group instead of seeking to kill them like last time. Thankfully, the great dragon has taken their side, much to the White Mage's surprise. Her attacks don't stop coming, though. Meanwhile, the dragon seems to be drawn to Kella specifically, much to his bafflement. Both their eyes meet, and they unlock a part of the dragon's memories in the past. Apparently, the dragon served Kella's mother, which means they knew each other, and the dragon grew fond of her as they shared the best of memories. In this moment, the dragon's voice comes clear inside his mind, ordering the demonic boy to run away. Kella is genuinely startled to hear the beast's voice. The great dragon then spits out its prized clairvoyant orb, which Kella catches, much to his surprise. He didn't know what it was until the great beast confirmed it to him. Kella doesn't understand why the dragon is doing him such great favors. The winged beast unfortunately doesn't have enough time to elaborate. Right now, he wants the boy to run away and conceal his powers. Kella is still at a loss for words comprehending the meaning, but the great dragon senses trouble and urges the boy to make haste. Turning around, the creature responds to the mage in white with a powerful fire breath. Despite defending herself successfully, Curdley is pleasantly surprised to find a dragon actually helping out a demon, as it is the most unexpected situation. Kella doesn't have any time to spare right now, and has to utilize this moment to escape. He gathers the team and they all flee with the great dragon delaying their demise. Even Curdley finds herself a bit annoyed seeing such a mighty dragon interfere with their battle. And with the beast's involvement, she has to rethink her strategy. The great dragon continues to unleash a column of fire, its output still unable to shatter her barrier. Curdley wants to respond in kind with a powerful spell of her own, and lets out a fraction of her powers. This woman unleashes a magic circle even bigger than the dragon, and from that magic circle emerges a gigantic meteor targeting the dragon from above. The meteor's unexpected descent catches the dragon off guard, and in the face of death, the winged beast cherishes its most enjoyable memories with Kella's mother always by his side. The meteor makes full contact with the dragon, killing it upon impact. Kella sees the sheer scale of the attack from afar, and realizes the conclusion. A pool of blood covers the icy meteor, having pierced the dragon's skin with success. Curdley makes her descent, questioning the dragon's objective to help the demons. She still can't make out a sensible explanation for it, so she uses a memory navigation spell to try and find out more. But right then, the dragon unleashes a final attack as the dragon disintegrates. The creature declares that the humans have been nothing more than selfless and cruel, and there will come a time when they'll face sheer collapse for their actions. With that, the dragon's body withers away into nothingness, leaving ashes as his remains. The creature chose to end its own life to prevent her from unlocking its memories. That much loyalty just to get Kella and his group to mask their presence and run away safely. Curdley finds this situation problematic, but still she believes it will not defy Kella Khaldun's inevitable fate. Extending her arms up in the air, she confirms that the Demon King's successor will be killed at the hands of the White Talkans. Having escaped, the group ponders the dragon's erratic behavior. It was clearly trying to hunt them down, so it's really strange how it switched up all of a sudden. The Dark Elf has a theory. He believes that the dragon only spared them because of Kella, as the beast did appear out of nowhere when Kella concentrated some of his powers. The son of the Demon King was able to take a glance into the dragon's memories, and he reveals that the dragon shared a connection to his mother. But that still doesn't make any sense, as Rin points out the sour relationship of the dragons with demons. She's really curious on how they ended up together. Even Kella doesn't know the exact details, but he sensed a warm feeling from their interaction. Also, the creature left him with its clairvoyant stone. It's the one thing they needed the most. The dragon turned out to be the best wingman ever for saving their lives and handing them a prize. Sriel's remarks that they were basically just saved by the Demon Queen at this point. Kella's curious to learn the relationship of his mother and the dragon, as he could sense something from the creature's eyes. He hands the stone over to the Dark Elf. Wood accepts the stone, and finally he'll be able to undergo an evolution. Sriel's reminds them that the Talcan of White is tailing them sharply, so they're gonna need the best abilities to help them out. Wood is still hesitant on using such a precious gift. It's the rarest of items and he feels guilty for using it. But in this case, Kella strongly encourages him to use it as they've got no one else to use it on. Wood willingly complies to his words and eats the stone. The moment he swallows it, a foreign feeling courses through his body. The dark elf revists the dragon's true memories. 1,000 years ago, the young dragon was tortured and experimented on by cruel humans. They tortured the creature and enjoyed its demise. The torture continued every single day as the beast cried without end. Many generations passed all the same, as humans continued to tear his body apart, taking different parts for themselves. It was the most brutal of sufferings. And right when he neared his death, they always healed him back so they could continue their experiments. The great dragons suffered through the same fate for centuries on end. Imagine a fate like that. The poor beast had already accepted reality, and had gone insane from all the times it had been tortured. Crying felt meaningless, so the beast simply accepted its fate. The humans considered it an achievement that they could make a dragon stop crying from the pain. Right when the creature sought its inevitable death, Turk Khaldun, the previous demon king, began invading humankind. He appeared more monstrous than ever, and enjoyed slaughtering every single human. It was during that battle that the lab he was placed in met its collapse, and for the first time in its life, the dragon was freed. That's how it escaped the hellish lab, all thanks to the demon invasion. Finally feeling the freedom it longed for in the skies, it tried to find other creatures of its kind. He openly confessed the dark truth about the cruel humans and wanted to ally with the demons to formulate an attack. But to his shock, not a single one believed his words. They'd already grown fond of the humans and did not want to break their relationship. Plus, they hated demons and were fighting them alongside the humans. But unbeknownst to most dragons, they were unaware of the dark truth behind their close relationship with the humans. The only reason they grew an affinity to humans is because dragons like him were tortured and experimented on for centuries on end. Those same humans exhausted dragons to continue their experiments, understanding more of their magic. But this dark truth wasn't accepted by the creatures of its own kind. They didn't want to form a relationship with the demons, especially since they strongly rejected them already. And because the dragons feared that he would try to harm the humans, it was left all alone. There was no one to care for him, and he belonged in neither of the three races. The lonely winged beast entered a state of meditation, questioning its purpose for being brought into this world. After all, he had now been rejected by all three sides and couldn't do anything, so it did not make sense why he existed. That's how the dragon began isolating itself all alone, in complete darkness and solitude. His life was wasted for many years, as he awaited his inevitable end, until one day, a weeping demon girl came rubbing her eyes to the giant creature. That's how he met Karista, the girl who had no one, and began calling the creature Mommy. To the dragon's shock, she ran towards him, not fearing the beast at all. The poor girl latched onto the beast's snout, bawling her eyes out and treating the dragon like her mother. Confused, the beast tried to explain that it wasn't her mother. That was the moment something dawned inside of the dragon. A light began to illuminate, the light of purpose, and the reason for the creature's existence. And its name was Kariste. The child that suddenly appeared before her eyes would change the course of the dragon's painful life. She used memory transmission magic on the girl, and what she saw was nothing less than bleak. The girl is a baby dragon. In the past, humans used her for experimentation. Karista suffered the same mortifying fate, albeit in the hands of demons. Among demons, there is a hostile group that acts independently from the flock. They were called the Tarsika. Through their findings, they were able to analyze a certain extent of dragon magic. Just like the ruthless humans, the Tarsika were researching methods to subjugate the mythical beasts. They got a hold of poor little Kariste right when she hatched from her egg. From the day she was born, the Tarsika locked her up and conducted all sorts of gruesome tests. Out of all the experiment subjects in their dungeons, Kariste held the highest magic potential of all. It did not take too long for her to naturally learn and use the most difficult dragon magic, the ability to transform. The girl's talent was the main reason that the Tarsika focused all their resources and cruel methodologies on her. Karista had known nothing but the cold hand of her captors. She was subjected to pain every waking moment of her life. Due to that constant and degrading despair, she developed teleportation magic on her own. Her will to escape manifested into something truly powerful. The child who managed to escape the cruelty of the facility roamed unfamiliar lands alone. Until fate brought the two dragons together, that is. Mama Dragon could not help but think that their shared fates must have intertwined for a reason. Maybe it is a predisposition or perhaps a momentous coincidence. Regardless, they might be the only two life forms in this world who have lived through the same pain. It was impossible not to play into the hands of destiny. Still, Mama Dragon refused to be called Mother. She preferred to be called Master. Little Karisti does not mind the titles. She's just happy not to be alone anymore. Besides, Master sounds a lot like Mother. After that, Mama Dragon went on to teach Kariste all sorts of things about the world and magic. She made a point to impress upon her the current state of the world and how dragons like them should live. All the dragon magic she had learned on her own was passed down to the little genius. The two spent years and years together, inseparable from one another. Unlike before, when time seemed to crawl by every painful second, every happy day passed so quickly. Too quickly. One night, the stoic Mama Dragon stared at the moon and blurted out how thankful she was to Caliste for waddling into her colorless life. Of course, she's not the type to go into details, but she didn't have to voice it all out. Watching Caliste grow bit by bit had been Mama Dragon's greatest joy. Every second they spent together brought her happiness that words cannot describe. All the pain Mama Dragon experienced just because she was born a dragon felt like nothing in the face of the beautiful life they built and lived together. Before you knew it, Caliste had already grown into a beautiful and capable woman. However, change comes when you least expect it. One day, something snapped inside Mama Dragon's mind. She had a frightened look in her eyes that Caliste had never seen before. Suddenly, she started acting aggressively and erratically. She questioned Caliste as if she didn't recognize the woman in front of her. Her confusion and madness grew stronger. She looked at her physical form and felt apprehension. Mama Dragon could not pinpoint whether she was a human or a demon, two factions for which she held deep resentment. Caliste panicked, unsure as to what the hell was happening. She thought her master was testing her. Unable to contain her rage any longer, Mama Dragon opened her maw and unleashed her earth-scorching flame breath. Feeling the heat heading her way, Caliste feared for her life. The only being who ever showed care for her is now bringing harm. All Mama Dragon wanted was to spend the rest of her life living happily with her baby. But her body and mind, which had their lifespan severely cut short by all kinds of inhumane experiments, are finally showing signs of deterioration. Her psyche and body are breaking down as they approach their inevitable expiry date. Thankfully, her errant attack did not hit Caliste at that time. Still, the damage is already done. When she sobered up, a feeling of shame, fear, and guilt swirled inside Mama Dragon's head. Even though the mythical beast just tried to kill her, Caliste was more concerned about her master's well-being. Mama Dragon muttered her hurried apology, insisting that she must have lost control. She wanted to hold her little girl, but a nagging feeling prevented her from doing so. Before the day came when she would not be able to recognize sweet little Caliste any longer, Mama Dragon decided to leave her side and never return. Days and nights passed when Caliste would weep and sweep through their home, calling for her master to come back. As her tears fell, her mother's wings flapped away with sorrow. For Caliste, her precious disciple's safety, Mama Dragon flew as far as she could possibly fly. From then on, she began to prepare for her life's foreseeable end. Back in solitude, not a day goes by that she does not dwell on nostalgic memories of Caliste. As her mind rots away, the cycles of remembering and forgetting were the worst torture she ever went through. For the first time in a long time, Mama Dragon shed real tears of unimaginable agony. The day her most treasured memories disappear will be the day she truly dies. She was supposed to isolate away from this hurtful world, but something pulled her back in. Back in the present, she felt a bittersweet energy that reignited something inside her heart. Compelled solely by instinct, she began to wander towards that familiar essence. On the way, she could tell that the last day of her long life had finally come. She was able to meet that energy coming out of a young man in trouble. That energy is the only string that ties her to her most precious memories. Feeling that little spark was enough to make her tear up once more. That energy belongs to Caliste, her precious disciple. No, her lovely daughter is the only good thing in her life. With her maternal instincts reawakened, Mama Dragon sped up with ferocity. In that place, what she found was not Caliste but a different child. She could tell from the energy and the resemblance that the boy was her daughter's child. In the middle of the chaos, she looked through the boy's memories and found a brief moment that she would take to her grave. The image of Caliste becoming a loving mother and holding her own child dearly. Mama Dragon might have failed to be a continuous presence in her daughter's life, but she would at least protect her grandchild if it was the last thing she did. With her remaining meager life force, Mama Dragon spewed destruction upon the threat. Even on her last day, Caliste still gave her mother away to die for something meaningful. At the end of Mama Dragon's long life, it was nice to see the boy once. Her final moments might have been painful, but it was also touched with immeasurable love. The past and the feelings that came with it flooded into Wood's mind like an emotional tidal wave. The dark elf lost strength in his legs as tears cascaded from his eyes. He just experienced a lifetime of agony, hatred, joy, and love compressed into a few minutes. Like a dream, the more he tried to remember the details of those memories, the more they disappeared. When all the specifics melted away, Wood was left with the feeling of peace. He is certain that Mama Dragon died a contented death. That means they are being chased by a mage that is powerful enough to snuff the life of a mythical beast. Curdley's ice meteor had absolutely crushed that tragic dragon to bits. Wood had just experienced a transcendental experience, and now he can't remember a single detail. Shreels tried to shake him down to remember, curious as to what he just went through, but it didn't work. Moreover, the abilities of the clairvoyant stone likely won't manifest all at once. Maybe the changes will happen slowly over time. In the worst-case scenario, Wood might not have the potential to manifest any of that stone's power at all. There is no choice but to wait for Wood's new skills to surface. The crew is not out of harm's way just yet. It's only a matter of time before White Talkin finds them again. They need to stow away somewhere that can be used as an easily defendable camp. Kella asks Shrills to pull out the world map and go to work. On the eastern side is the region of Talua Kingdom, ruled by humans. The west is where the Demon Kingdom once stood, where their kind dwells. Right now, the crew is on the boundary between the two warring territories. After much deliberation, Kella decided that they should head south. Rin was confused. She reckoned going deeper into demon territory would be their best bet at survival. Kella argued that his father must have some kind of hidden intent behind sending him to Arsal. Part of it had to do with meeting Shrills, no doubt. Once the main stronghold Demon Kingdom fell, Hel Khaldun probably predicted that humans would engage in a full-scale invasion, a victory lap of slaughter around the territory. Shrills could see the truth in Kella's hypothesis. As soon as their father passed away, all of humanity's army took the opportunity to ride the wave and exterminate as many demon folk as they could. If that's the case, Rin sees an urgent need to rally the remaining demons. They must gather under Sir Kella's banner, but Kella, of all people, knows that doing that right now would be impossible. As they saw in the Earth Demon's territory, he had been stamped as the cowardly prince who ran away. That slanderous propaganda must have reached the ears of all other demon folk. That means Kella has no power to rally anyone just yet. If he can't be the figurehead, maybe Shrills can be. Unfortunately, there isn't anyone who can prove that she's a descendant of the Demon King. Moreover, when she was working undercover in Talkin, she had done some deplorable things that would be hard for the demons to forgive. Since they can't gather forces yet, the safest thing to do now is to create a dungeon that can be used as a base of operations. Kella needs to remake his image, better his reputation, rack up achievements, and make his people follow him willingly. With that plan established, the crew is eager to get to work. From now on, Kella will stack achievements to clear his name. If they do this right, demons will naturally flock to their camp on their own will. That way, they can prove that he is the rightful heir to the throne of the Demon King. For now, they need to establish a good position and create a strategy from there. The home-based dungeon in the south is a top priority. It's a relief that they can come up with a makeshift plan. Kella has good comrades around him, but the threat of those absurdly powerful monsters will always be looming over their heads. Facing Curdly, let alone the entire White Talkin force, is a suicide mission. The most valuable thing that they sorely need right now is information. Kella has seen many things in common between this world and his game. From the system of magic to the monster catalog, they're all too familiar. If there's truly a link between this world and his previous life, Kella must use his status and power as the heir to the throne to get what he needs. With his extensive knowledge of the game, creating a brilliant survival strategy should be doable. He must be a few steps ahead of the enemy. There has to be a path to victory. He cannot die in vain before reaching that. Meanwhile, in some random demon town, human soldiers are burning and pillaging to their dark heart's content. Out of desperation, some demons tried to surrender and offered to stand on the side of humans. Unfortunately for them, this army does not accept surrender. What awaits everyone in sight is Deed's summoned shadow dragon, hungry for more demon meat. The brutality of this steamroll was unmatched. Those who dared to criticize and abhor their methods died by the weighty axe of Audria. In just a few minutes, Kalka reported the complete decimation of the demon village to the captain. While sitting on the corpse of the village's most competent fighter, Captain Killian is busy talking with Curdly's apparition. He's just getting the rundown of how a dragon helped Kella escape. Killian found it interesting that the slippery bunch was hanging around the boundary territory not far from the Earth Demon domicile. Curdly assured her captain that she was working on picking the scent of her targets back up using her butterflies. The captain could instinctively tell that the demon prince was not coming to a demon territory engulfed in a sea of flames. Since they're done with their side quest of annihilating civilian demon territories, it's time for the entire Talkin White to convene in Curdly's location for the main mission. Audria complained that they should just go all the way and get rid of every demonic territory on this side of the continent. Killian calmed her eager ass down by assuring her that they could go on a killing spree once the prince was dead. The Cap just needs to obliterate the bloodline that killed his brother first. The person of interest they are chasing is currently saddled on top of a unicorn along with his girls. They have been running south for a week without resting, and the unnatural cold is starting to seep into their bones. Kella is certain that they were not followed by Talkin on their way down south. It would be nice if this peace continued for a long time, at least until he's done with his preparations. Their speedy journey suddenly stopped when the unicorns paused their strides all of a sudden. Wood could sense that the magical beasts were strongly refusing to ferry them any further than this point for some reason. The horned creatures must have determined that they can't survive in the harsh environment up ahead. It's a good thing the crew is near enough to their destination. Before sending the unicorns back, Wood thanked the magical beasts sincerely and wished them well. The crew saw their reliable rides away back to the north. Now that they've stopped moving, the cold became even harder to resist. In this weather, both humans and demons would have a hard time, but that's also what makes the site perfect for their use case. Since they're in the general area now, it's time to find a good specific location. As the unicorns retreat back to their natural habitat, something spots them from the skies. Curdley's butterflies have spread far across the border, and the magical beasts have been found. The mage happens to be knowledgeable about all kinds of magical beasts. She knows that unicorns fear the cold, so they would not be found in the southern lands without good reason. Furthermore, their number just happened to match that four-man crew. As the crew scoured the southern lands, they came across a grim mountain situated in the middle of a small island. That right there is their best bet for a safe position. Unfortunately, Wood can't scan the place for monsters or other occupants from afar. His mind's eye only responds to nature and can't detect life just yet. Sreels found a few dilapidated boats beached upon the shore. It seems people have gone here, but it's been a while. Although the boats are slightly weathered, they should still be usable for a short sail. It's just a 200-meter boat ride from the coast to the island. The distance was no problem, and the deep, strong waves could be a good deterrent in the future. Moreover, the view from the island is clear. It will be easy to detect any daring invaders. They walked around the mountain and found the entrance. Much to the crew's surprise, the size was quite wide. Fortunately, they can remedy that exposure by using illusion magic on the entrance courtesy of Sreels. With a wave of her hand, she constructed a perfect illusion, grid by grid. In just a second, the massive entrance was covered with a fake entryway. Looking around the cavern, everyone could tell that this is an ancient site used a long time ago. Heading deeper into the cavern, the paths suddenly split into two. Thankfully, they have Wood to feel out both passages with his senses. After feeling out every rock and wall on the way, Wood made a map of the two paths that narrow in the middle and open into two rooms. Afterward, they merge into an even bigger room at the end. Beyond the last big room, there were two paths. One is a small exit, and the other leads to a separate small area. Kella decided to be thorough, so the group would split into two to check both paths out before meeting in the conjoined room in the middle. Sreels immediately wrapped her arms around Kella and claimed him as her partner. Rin would never let that happen without protesting, though. She awkwardly stammered that there were too many unknown variables in those tunnels, so they should split up the strongest members to account for danger. Sreels willingly conceded while side-eyeing the servant the whole time. So the crew was split. Kella and Rin will go to the right, and Sreels and Wood will take the left. Thankfully, they won't have to blindly feel around complete darkness due to the stones lining the walls. Sreels identified them as light stones, nifty tools combined with ice and light magic. Since they're still serviceable for those who know how many years now, they must be made by a skilled mage. Now that Sreels is alone with Wood, she frankly professes that she doesn't trust him. Wood tried to nonchalantly interject, but the commander cut him off. She's only traveling with a stray dark elf because Kella took his personal pick. Sreels, on the other hand, is not the type to make new comrades so easily. Wood knew better than to exchange words with the strong-willed redhead. He openly accepted her skepticism. It's fine if she doesn't acknowledge him as a comrade. Hell, he would be fine if she saw him as a slave. Sreels wasn't expecting such a bold reply. Nevertheless, she still doesn't like the newest addition to the team. On the other path, Rin and Kella are chatting about the possibility of producing light stones themselves. For some reason, the little servant is acting unusually overprotective of her master. She would overact to the littlest things, like a loose stone on the way. Even Kella was feeling confused about her newfound enthusiasm. As they walked deeper and deeper, the two finally encountered their first monster, a simple blue slime. Kella felt his inner nerd rejoice. He's only ever seen a slime on screen. He's been dying to touch a real one at least once in his life. Before he could fulfill his simple dream, Rin jumped in to stomp the dog shit out of the slime, killing it into a wet puddle. Today, she's not letting even the weakest type of monster touch a hair in her master's head. With demonic energy fluctuating in her hands, she turned to the young master with an expectant smile. She looked like a puppy dog waiting for a compliment from her owner. With a sigh, Kella gave her the positive reinforcement she's been craving for. It only served to fire her up even more to take on whatever stood in their way. It looks like they won't have to wait for long for that next obstacle. The walls of the pathway crumbled as the ground shook. A gigantic earth golem broke through the stony wall, locking onto the intruders. By instinct, Kella warned Rin to get behind him quickly. Instead of listening to the young master's orders, Rin stood her ground and refused to be sidelined. She already said that she will take care of anything that gets in their way. This is the perfect chance to make good on that proclamation. On the other path, Sreels experiences the same level of shock as the other duo. Only hers is due to some super expensive crystal necklace lying around the ground. She's starting to get her hopes up that they may have stumbled upon an untouched treasure dungeon. She immediately wore the necklace around her neck and asked Wood if it suited her. Having never interacted with anyone else in the outside world, the dark elf responded with empty words. The enthusiasm she was feeling immediately dissipated. She could not help but regret not taking Rin with her on this path. that girl would have been all over her with compliments by now. Being paired with a deadpan dark elf who doesn't see her charm is not nearly as fun. It's not Wood's fault either. He's been a slave for his entire life after all. Back in the action-filled path, Rin had engaged the golem in one-on-one combat. With her demonic energy-infused hands, she scratched and clawed her way into the hardened stone armor. Unfortunately for her, simple attacks won't cut it. The golem retaliated with a forceful punch and sent her slamming into the walls with a healthy dose of bleeding. Kella warned Rin to back off before she got hurt even more. The thing is simply impossible to defeat without specialized weapons. But Rin is a woman of her word. She promised to deal with obstacles on her own, so she would stand by those words. With a more intense demonic energy flowing out of her claws, she jumped in for another round. Just like the first time, her attack barely did anything, and the counterattack hurt like hell. Kella wanted to respect her wishes, but he was ready to jump in at any moment just to stop her from pushing herself so unreasonably hard. Using the impact from the counter, Rin created some distance from the automaton to catch her breath. She believes that if she continues being useless, she won't be able to serve as the new Demon King's attendant. The determination in her eyes paints a fierce picture of her will. When she first entered the Demon King's castle as an attendant, she met with the intense and scrutinizing gaze of the reigning Demon Lord. The little crybaby prince brought his attendant to the throne room to ask his father for permission to be friends with Rin. Being the old-school monarch that he is, Hell disapproved of such an atrocious idea. Attendants are supposed to be bound by lifelong contracts and must not be treated as so-called friends. Little Kella cried some more and eventually caved to his father's demand. In the name of Kella Khaldun, he proclaimed Rin as his personal attendant, now and forever. At that time, she could not be more thankful to the prince. She would never forget that little crying boy who just wanted a friend. It was the first and only time in Rin's life that she felt like she was being acknowledged as a person. That day, she watched over the little prince, sobbing himself to sleep. In silence, she swore an oath. No matter what happens, she will be by his side, supporting him in becoming the greatest of all demons. Rin felt like this was the first day of the rest of her life, and she would work harder than everybody else. But as time went on, the optimism of children died down. Kella did not grow out of his cowardly crybaby phase. He was always bullied to the brink of death because of his siblings' torment. Rin is always there to watch him get humiliated while bawling his eyes out. If he dies, she dies too. After years of coddling and comforting him without seeing any change in his meager attitude, Rin acted cold and strict to try and toughen the kid up. No matter what approach she tried, he never changed. While the prince is suffering at the hands of his siblings, Rin is experiencing something arguably worse. She became the target of discrimination and violence from her fellow attendants. Since she's just a servant, they had the gall to really go hard on her. Sometimes, they would pluck her pretty eyes out since it would just heal eventually. For a stretch of time, she ate nothing but scraps. They think she'll die with her useless master anyway, so there's no need to waste good food. While the rotten food burned her insides, the other attendants would prank Rin by splashing her with molten lava. No big deal. She was relegated to sleeping in the dirty stables among the pigs. Even at her lowest, the other attendants would still come and torment her. There was never a safe hour. Some of the other demons were jealous of her body, accusing Rin of seducing the other princes. Rin had been conditioned to never fight back. She just sat there begging for mercy and enduring the pain. With all the persecution she was experiencing, she started hating her master. Because of that contract, she would be put to death if he died. She started thinking that killing Kella might be her only way out of this harrowing life. It would be better if they just died together. Once, she actually went through it and slit the young master's throat with a blade. Unfortunately for her, Kella's recovery power had always been beyond the norm. The only way Rin can think of is not even possible. If death isn't even an option, what does she have left? That night, Rin bared her fangs at her master with vitriol while the pathetic Kella cried and profusely apologized for the way things were. And so Rin gave up on everything and lived like a corpse. At least until the young master underwent a drastic change overnight. It was so dramatic. It felt like Kella had become a completely different person. The current him fits the image of the true heir to the great Demon King's illustrious throne. With all that in mind, Rin is fighting with the guilt from the past and the desire to push for the future. She doesn't want to be a burden to his ascent to the top anymore. If she's just going to keep getting in the way, then she's not qualified to stand by her side any longer. With everything on the line, Rin pushed past her limits, manifesting pure demonic energy to lop the golem's head off. When the automaton's body dropped to the ground, the whole cavern shook. Needless to say, Kella was surprised to see his servant become such a potent killing machine. Of course, that did not come without a cost. Battered, bloodied, and beaten, Rin sobbed as she declared her desire to stay by Kella's side and never be abandoned. The young lord felt that desire completely resonating in his heart. Unfortunately for them, beheading a golem doesn't kill it. The humongous, headless body got up from the knockdown and raised its arm, ready to flatten the exhausted attendant. With all that is said and done, Kella would never let anything bad happen to her. A single demonic push was all it took to completely destabilize the hulking headless beast. From Kella's perspective, Rin doesn't have to prove herself any longer. She had risked her life to save him time and time again. There is no one in their right mind who would abandon a friend as reliable as that. In fact, if Rin tries to run away again someday, Kella won't let it happen. Hearing such reassuring words turned the waterworks back on. Rin jumped into her lord's arms, hugging him as tight as she could. The painful memories and feelings Rin shared with Kella are also in his mind. For the future's sake, he had decided to mold this girl into the strongest attendant in existence. Meanwhile, on the second path, Shrills and Wood also arrived in the first room, which was wider than they had anticipated. The redhead commander continued picking up little trinkets along the way and was bewitched by a diamond bracelet that she was dying to show to Rin. Before Rin could warn her about the dangers of picking up random stuff off a sketchy floor, the bracelet was already on her wrist. He wondered if this woman really didn't know the dangers that might come with such willy-nilly practice, or if she was just pretending not to know. Suddenly the diamond bracelets activated and formed a handcuff that locked her hands together. Shrills was equally alarmed and confused. While the binding tightened, a hostile presence made itself known. It had a giant spider lower body and a humanoid upper body, a treasure spider. Wood felt something weird about the bracelet and all the trinkets. It looked like all those shiny stuff was just monster bait all along. Shrills yelled at the dark elf for not saying anything until she had already sprung the trap. Well, Wood thought that someone as capable as Shrills would already know something so obvious. Unfortunately, she was too blinded by the radiance of jewelry to take the trap into account. Wood reckoned she had some other plan, so he just let her continue doing her thing. Truthfully, a monster like a random treasure spider is normally nothing for Shrills, but she foolishly let her guard down. With her hands tied, she can't get her magic staff out. Now, she has to rely on Wood to get out of this jam. To preserve her pride, she claimed that she was just pretending to be a captive. She is doing this to test the newbie's strength. The bracelet is connected to the monster's magic web, and it's up to Wood to solve this dilemma. The dark elf immediately set her free from the bracelet at the top of the priority list. With his dagger, he landed an accurate swing in hopes of cutting the restraints from the middle. Unfortunately, treasure spiders have a habit of putting barriers around anything connected to their web. It cannot be broken through physical means. Just as Wood was about to try another method, the monster barged, spewing toxic matter from its maw. The acid could melt both of them with the slightest touch, so Wood had to grab the commander and jump to safety. Since they're inside a barren cave, there aren't any roots that he can control. Their only hope is to somehow let Shrills use her magic to kill that monster in a single hit. The acid rain was relentless. No matter how far they got and how much Wood jumped around, the spider followed. When they got far enough, the treasure spider switched to using its sticky threads. With great precision, it managed to catch Shrills, securely pinning her into the walls with silk. The beast specifically targets her at the weak link trapped in the handcuff barrier. After completely immobilizing Shrills and backing her into a wall, the spider lunged for the kill shot using its sharp legs. The sound of bladed legs going through flesh reverberated in the cavern. Instead of a Shrills getting stabbed in the heart, it was Wood taking the hit for her sake instead. Wood knows that their win condition lies in Shrills being able to use her magic. Like a loyal soldier, he will do anything to make that possible. The leg stinger broke off after the stab, and Wood grabbed that nasty thing out of his wound like it was nothing. He swiftly turned around and used the stinger to destroy the restraints on Shrills' wrists. She is finally free, but the monster is not slowing down with its attacks. Wood had to tank a few more stingers lodging themselves on his back. It was a crazy plan, but it worked. Now it's Shrill's turn to go on the offensive. The redhead commander could not believe that a newbie in their crew would risk his life for her. Without pause, she summoned her staff out of thin air. It's time to make this mere bug pay for humiliating and playing with her. She aimed her staff at the spider and burned its very soul with purple torch. She wasn't kidding. A single spell was all it took to kill that troublesome arachnid. After killing the beast, all the jewelry and trinkets she picked up along the way vanished like they never existed in the first place. Wood slumped into the ground, his back filled with massive holes the size of stingers. Shrills asked how he managed to undo the barrier on the bracelet. As it turns out, Wood just made a gamble. If it was the spider's own body, he thought the stinger would bypass the magic. If he made the wrong bet, he would have been injured or, worse, died for nothing. With absolute conviction, Wood asserted that he didn't care if he lived or died. He just wanted to do his part and do it right. Seeing his blood on the cavern floor reminded Shrills of her previous self. While training to be a knight in Tolkien, she had a rough and bloody time. In a crucial spar against a fellow trainee, a blade stabbed into her stomach. Instead of despairing, she smiled. She deliberately let the opponent dig his sword into her flesh to take it out of the equation. In exchange for harming her body, she found a clean line of attack to take the guy's head off in a single swing. Even the knight overseeing that spar was impressed with her ruthless decisiveness. If that blade had dug in a little higher, she would have been stabbed in her heart. It just didn't matter to Shrills. She doesn't care if she lives or dies. What matters is fulfilling the task and killing the opposition no matter what. That stubbornness and killer instinct got her into the order. With a giant hole in her stomach, she passed the test and was admitted to Talcon of Red. Back then, she had to claw and struggle to achieve her goals. She could see that same drive in Wood. The Dark Elf always has an indifferent expression on his face, but he is the perfect soldier, the type that would lay it all on the line for his creed. The child put his life on the line to protect Shreels. That is enough to completely change her perception of him. He passed the test. Shreels shall completely accept the new kid as a brother-in-arms. For his next order, Shreels commanded him to never die easily. Wood absorbed the decree into his heart and committed it into his mind. Finally, the two groups are reunited in the biggest room in the cavern, where the separate paths combine. Kella ran to Wood, worried about his visibly heavy injuries. He assured the young lord that Shreels had already healed him with a spell. Shreels, on the other hand, yelled at Kella for letting Rin get hurt so badly even though she insisted on fighting that golem alone. Kella and Shreels yelled at each other for letting their respective partners get hurt while comparing notes. One side fought a golem, and the other fought a treasured spider. Those two monsters are rarely, if ever, seen in the same place. This place must be hiding a secret. Before continuing the exploration, Shreels first cast a quick healing spell on Rin's injuries. Afterward, they carefully scanned the adjoined room and found similarities to the internal architecture of the Demon King's castle and traces of human architectural techniques. But what's really concerning is the eye-catching stone statue standing in the middle guarding a suspicious box beneath. It looked an awful lot like the one in Solo Leveling. Rin's eyes sparkled at the thought of real treasures hidden in the box. As if she never learned her lesson, Shreels is on the same greedy page as Rin. She ran straight to the chest with the intent of uncovering some godly treasures, only to rouse the statue awake. Kella immediately pulled out his magical bow and arrow. He loaded it up, aimed at the stony figure, and urged Shreels to get down. A death ray shot out of the statue's eye. Thankfully, Kella's arrow intercepted the blast before it could hit Shreels. She fell for another trap. Kella was incensed. He urged the girls to read the situation for once. That is so clearly a trap. Nevertheless, they have to deal with a giant figurine shooting death rays from its eyes now. Wood and Rin got ready to jump into action, but Kella stopped them from taking another step. He reckoned that they should stay in their spots until they recover, or they'll only get in the way. Rin didn't want to get sidelined, but Wood willingly accepted his orders. He was ordered by Shreels not to die so easily, and he will honor that task. For now, all they can do is focus on recovery as the young lord instructed. Rin gritted her teeth but could not think of anything to argue against sound logic. She can only pray that Kella and Shreels could hold out a little longer while they recover. Kella will serve as a distraction, drawing the statue's attention, while Shreels will go for the main body. Unfortunately, that won't be so easy as the statue had put up a seemingly impenetrable barrier around its body. The arrows were of no effect and were Shreels' purple fireballs. With the magic barrier and the death rays, the thing is practically unassailable. An inanimate casting multiple powerful spells shouldn't even be possible, but here they are. There are two possible explanations for this phenomenon. Either a high-level mage preloaded a shit ton of spells into the statue, or there is something sentient actively casting magic inside that thing. To confirm, Kella asked Wood to extend his senses and scan the statue's inner structure. Within such a short distance, it wasn't too difficult for the Dark Elf to determine that the inside of the statue was completely hollow. That means there is a high chance that someone or something is hiding within. First, they need to break the magic barrier with everything they have. Out of everyone on the crew, Shreels has the highest potential damage output, yet she can't even dent the barrier. To make matters worse, golems started materializing from the cavern walls. That's right, multiple magic constructs crawled out like they were trapped by the founding titan for the rumbling. They are even bigger and stronger than the ones Rin and Kella faced earlier. To add to the chaos, another treasure spider spawned to join the party. By Shreels' estimation, this one is also bigger than the one that trapped her. She immediately fired Purple Torch in hopes of getting another one-shot kill. The flames swallowed the bug, making it shriek in pain. Unfortunately, her powerful spell did not work as she expected it to. This big bugger must be the mother of the one she cooked earlier. Mother Spider retaliated with a lightning-quick attack, almost clipping Shreels. If they were not in an enclosed space, she could probably unleash a wide-area spell powerful enough to take care of the miscellaneous beasts. But that's not an option right now. Similarly, Kella could kill these hostile monsters if he could unleash the Demon King's mana right now. But if he does that, Curdly and the entire White Talkin' Knight Order will detect their location right away. While he was racking his brain for a solution that would not end up in everybody's demise, Kella noticed something off about the statue. He noticed that since the monsters had been summoned, the statue had stopped using its death ray. It is highly likely that the thing's magic is being completely diverted to controlling the beasts. Furthermore, the summoning only happened when Shreels muttered about destroying the statue and whatever was inside in the first place. This oversized figurine might have sensed the danger from her words and taken a drastic measure. The crew cannot afford to play in its hands. They can't waste time on miscellaneous monsters. Destroying the statue is the key to victory. So, Kella jumped ahead and dumped the responsibility of buying him a little time on Sriels. Using a firewall, she sealed off the inner area, letting Kella run unimpeded. If the statue stopped casting magic to directly protect itself, then that must mean the barrier is down too. With a mana-covered fist, Kella punched the concrete bastard and managed to break through. Sriels saw him go inside the hollowed statue. Finally, they wrestled the advantage their way. Unfortunately for her, Kella's breakthrough seemingly lit a fire under the golems and spiders' asses, making them act more aggressively against her. As the golems charged at the redhead commander, the spider snuck past her firewall. Rin and Wood saw the silk-spinning beast heading towards the statue instead. Before they could intercept the charge, the recovering duo was thrown a problem of their own. Some of the aggressive golems broke off Sriels' engagement and are now heading towards them. Sriels cannot let her comrades fight with their gregarious injuries. She fell back and cut the charge off with her magic. The golems tried to pulverize her with their solid fists, but her barrier was way too tough to crush. Right now, they have no choice but to support each other and trust Kella to end this nightmare. Inside the statue, the young lord looked up to see a mana structure containing the life form controlling everything. He quickly materialized his flaming arrow, eager to destroy that thing and claim the W. Unfortunately, the treasure spider had arrived to interrupt his assassination attempt. A single silk shot sent him stuck to the inner wall. If he had just a few seconds faster, this spider would not have been able to thwart his reckless but effective plan. Moreover, the situation outside is getting more precarious by the second. The golems are thrashing the barrier, eager to pound their asses. Kella wants to help, but he is caught in the stickiest restraints imaginable. The treasure spider closed in like a predator excited to pounce on its lunch. Kella finally considered using his father's inheritance at the cost of being detected by that killer image. Before he could reveal their location to the real enemy, the presence inside his soul intervened and showed up just to yell at him for being an absolute moron. Kella felt his consciousness sink into nothingness, the abyss that he had once plunged into. The presence reprimanded him for letting himself get beaten by pathetic low-level monsters so badly. Kella yelled back at the ethereal presence for holding out until now, when he'd experienced a ton of near-death experiences before this one. The presence was in no mood to discuss the specifics. He just popped in to tell the young lord to use Vassal. No matter how piss-weak he is right now, he can still control monsters within a certain level using the Vassal ability. Kella asked if this Vassal thing is similar to the contract he made with Rin when they were kids. The presence roared at him once more for comparing a royal ability to something so primitive. Kella possesses the blood of the great demon king passed down through multiple generations. Vassal is an ability that every great demon king possesses. As long as the user has a strong enough desire, it will automatically manifest. He just has to tap into the powerful will to make the enemy his property and unleash the greed engraved in his very blood, and any weaker being than his potential shall become his vassal. With a strong enough will, he can claim every monster within this land. He can make every powerful demon submit. For a second, Kella completely synced with the presence inside his soul. He tapped into something completely out of his reach and unlocked the king's power. He looked in the general direction of the treasure spider and made it shudder before his superior bloodline. His powerful desire to make everything his property manifested into something irresistible. Kella Khaldun, the descendant of the great demon king, shall take command of this land and all its inhabitants. He shall hereby lay claim upon every inferior being that he wants. Before the spider stingers could reach him, the bug stopped in its tracks. Suddenly, Kella could feel something click and unlock in his mind's eye. In his mind's eye, he could see the visualization of his vassal slots. It resembled an item menu from a game. As if he was always meant to have access to such power, he instinctively knew how to use it. He could feel complete domination over the treasure spider that was just trying to maim him a second ago. Bro is about to become a Pokemon master. Outside, Sriels is practically begging the young lord to do something before her barrier completely cracks under the force and pressure of these hostile golems. Thankfully, he now has a clear sightline of the main culprit. Kella made use of his control over the spider and turned that thing into his mount. Now that he's got a taste for control, he wants to test it on the monsters wreaking havoc outside too. He can do that by taking care of the magical beast controlling the statue. Upon jumping close enough to have a face-to-face with the mastermind, Kella used his vassal ability on the brains of the operation. It was a freaking slime. When his domineering eyes met the slime's, the pull of his bloodline stirred. In just a second, he snagged the mental controller from the slime, putting the golems under his jurisdiction. Sriels and the others were bewildered when the hunks of rock stopped attacking completely. Wood pointed their attention ahead to where the young lord was triumphantly marching his way out of the statue while riding a treasure spider and holding a slime as a trophy. He did it. He turned the table on the tricky little critter and won. It is kind of unbelievable that the owner of the dungeon is a single arrogant slime. It must have been enhanced with some kind of superior magic. For Kella, this was a double win. They came out of the situation unscathed, and he finally fulfilled his dream of touching a slime. It was just as smooth as he expected. Shreels heard the rundown of what happened inside the statue, and she had never even heard about this vassal ability. Now it makes sense how the previous demon kings ruled over all kinds of demonic monsters, uniting different species under a single banner. More importantly, Kella has finally laid claim over the dungeon. Now they can finally do some remodeling. Also, he wants to keep the slime as a pet. Since magical rocks are attached to its body, the slime shall be called Stone from now on. Shreels, on the other hand, is jealous of Kella's new overpowered ability. She wants to use Vassal too. While the crew was being rowdy as usual, Wood brought up a valid question. There must be a powerful magician who made the superior slime. Where is that person now? Seeing how worn down the dungeon is, the original mage must have moved somewhere else a very long time ago. Shreels put forward the possibility that whoever built this dungeon died while fighting humans. Regardless, the slime has been stuck here for who knows how long. The bouncy thing must have been quite lonely. Kella still couldn't stop thinking about the presence in that endless abyss. If that mysterious figure hadn't intervened, they would have been likely wiped out. He has to figure out the conditions for meeting that guy again in the future. For now, he has no idea where to start. So, there is no point wondering about things he has zero clue about. Now comes the fun part, the dungeon construction. The young lord needs a complete and detailed map of the place. After making Stone his vassal and taking over the cavernous dungeon, Kella proceeded to rule over the demonic monsters on the entire island. He positioned some vultures in various locations to serve as his eyes in preparation for Tolkien's inevitable arrival. He prepared quite a thorough scouting perimeter. Kella also reorganized the makeup of the dungeon. First, he placed a ton of baby spiders at the entrance to whittle down intruders. Then, he split half of his newfound golem army to man each split in the fork. They are hibernating in the walls, ready to pounce on unsuspecting victims. Lastly, the remaining giant golems and the mother spider have been stationed in the middle hall. Thankfully, their efforts to take over the dungeon bore a more material fruit. They found various weapons inside the chest guarded by the statue. Rin was bestowed a pair of deadly daggers with the promise of becoming a stronger fighter. Shreels identified the blades as a high-level treasure that could make Rin's demonic power stronger and more condensed. The feisty attendant has been scathing by with just the demonic power coating her bare hands until now. It's time to change that inefficiency. If Rin can learn how to use these demonic daggers well, her attacks can be much sharper and deadlier. With a drive to be a more effective weapon and protector for her master, she swore to become a master with the daggers. As for Wood, he specifically chose a worn-out wooden shield from a pile of much more impressive treasures. He noticed that the shield has continued to retain its moisture through who knows how many years. Furthermore, it contains the vigorous energy of nature. Kella trusts Wood's judgment. Elves sense things differently after all. As for Shreels, she opted to pick a simple grimoire from the pile. It doesn't seem like there's any special magic inside, but she felt drawn to it. Finally, for Kella, he has plenty of blades to choose from. Shreels offered her help, given her experience with swords, and found the one containing the strongest demonic power of them all. Kella looked at the blade for a second and looked away. His eyes are inexplicably drawn to one with an intricate handle and hilt. Shreels pointed out the standout sword of the bunch, but Kella chose to go with his gut even though it looked weak. His instincts should never lead him astray. In addition, this one is really similar to the sword he used in the game. Holding the blade in his hand felt like a reunion with the old trusty weapon he used to endlessly grind with. After harvesting the products of their labor, Kella got to work and started designing his new dungeon. Seeing that the place is situated on quite a barren plot of land, the materials available weren't the best. They had to use what was available, be it dirt, stone, and the nearby water, as construction materials. The crew used Wood's innate earth demon knowledge to utilize the natural materials to their fullest capacity. For the combination of materials and manual labor substitute, they used Shreels's fine-tuned magic. The crew went on an ambitious project to build a dungeon utilizing the combined knowledge of earth demons and the magic of Arsal. Sure, it was crude, given the poor conditions of the area and the subpar materials available. But it was the first dungeon Kella had designed. With everything happening, his first could also be his last. In his personal quarters, Kella kept Stone in a metallic bird cage, and the little slime seemed to love it. Days passed by with smiles and laughter. As long as they avoid Tolkien White's detection, living like this wouldn't be too bad. Unfortunately for the young lord, this peaceful life might not last for much longer, thanks to a curious little butterfly scanning the island. On the other side of the world, Arsal is in the process of rebuilding the remnants of the fallen city. Hayden, the king's personal lapdog, came over to see how things were proceeding. He doesn't really want to be there, but the fall of Arsal is having a disgraceful effect on the state of Talua as a whole. He doesn't want to hear excuses about how everybody was caught up in the festivities to deal with that traitor Shreels and the coward Kella. Hayden wants the strongest elemental mages, or at least the ones that survived the slaughter, to report directly to him. He will provide them with some enhanced stones personally bestowed by the king, and Hayden himself will take them under his wing to train. But word had already spread about White Tolkien's involvement in this case. It doesn't make sense for other mages to get involved. Hayden argued that White Talkin is too slow. They haven't even located the demons yet. If Arsol's mages could find and eliminate the last royal demon, they could restore the city's reputation, lifting it up from the mud. While that is true, Arsol's remaining politician worries about the serious side effects that using Talia's enhancement stones brings. Hayden clicked his tongue in annoyance. There is no need to think about side effects at a time like this. The war rages on. Running out of patience, Hayden magically gripped the elder by the neck and tightened the grip. The politicians might be forgetting that Hayden was the one who brought Arsol to the top. If he wanted, he could kill everyone here and suffer no consequence. He just needs to create a flimsy justification to keep receiving support from the king. Hayden won't tolerate any more doubts. He wants the Penta-elemental mages to be in front of him quickly. Hayden is on edge. Once White Talkin finds Kella Khaldun, Killian will definitely score the kill. He needs to be the one who bags that monumental achievement. As if reading his mind, a hooded stranger came up to him with an offer to help in finding the cowardly demon prince. The mage commander of Talua felt as though this offer was a sure shot. Back in the newly constructed dungeon, Kella is sitting on a throne that feels a little too extravagant for his liking. Rin argued that he should get used to the lavishness, for he'll officially take over as the Demon King soon anyway. While they have a luxurious chair for the young lord, all they have to put on the table is fish to eat. Eager to remedy that problem, Rin volunteered to go out in the wild to hunt. Kella disapproved. They couldn't afford the risk of getting found by Talkin. It's simply too dangerous. Still, it is true that eating fish every single day is bumming everyone out. Wood then stood up and volunteered to catch some carnivorous animal to put some meat on the table. The problem is the land surrounding them is barren. However, while Wood was training, he thought of something that could bypass that problem. His wooden shield has a rich life force that he can synchronize with his ability. He can extend a route deep underground to search for animals. It's kind of like ground fishing. He requires absolute silence since the roots must move without sound and with slow accuracy to succeed. With nothing else to do in the dungeon, the crew sat around without making a peep for 2 hours. Actually, make that 4 hours of stillness. When the 6th hour passed, Rin finally had enough and protested Wood's slow-ass method. They thought he had fallen asleep along with his roots. Just as they were impatiently complaining, Wood felt the nibble he was waiting for. He pulled the shield up and retracted the endlessly extending roots. What came with it was a four-eyed mole eagerly chasing after the root. With delight, Srills praised the dark elf for catching a giant mole. It only took 6 hours to get one to bite. Still, the compliment made him blush a little. While everyone was celebrating, Kella looked at the bizarre critter and wondered if it was even edible. Rin, on the other hand, felt threatened by the rookie's ability to contribute. To redeem herself, she grabbed the mole, knocked it out, and promised to cook something delicious for her master. Outside, the eyes in the skies stayed still in their posts, acting like CCTVs with wings. In the kitchen, Rin is currently freaking out. She talked big earlier, but she had no idea how to prepare mole meat at all. The skin of the giant furball is too tough to slice with her demonic energy-infused claws. She's starting to think that maybe she should have involved others instead of pretending to be an expert. But when she thinks about what the young lord would say and how disappointed he would be if she failed this task, she could not bear the pain. So, the unrelenting attendant was left to deal with the consequences of her actions on her own. Then, she remembered the dagger she had gotten from that treasure box. She was told that these blades can concentrate mana into a single focused point. Perhaps this is the right time to use this tool of death. A dead giant mole is a good training partner. Rin closed her eyes and concentrated as she channeled her mana into the daggers. She continued pouring power into the blades until it started acting out of control and erratic. Instead of condensing into a single point, her mana is spreading even wider instead. The weapon was like an endless well sucking her power continuously. She tried to physically drop the daggers, but it wouldn't let go of her hands. If this keeps up, the dagger will suck her off until nothing is left. While Rin is struggling for her life, Sreels is chilling and relaxing with an ancient grimoire in her hands. She determined that it's filled with basic spells, the dungeon's information, and the area's information. Although basic in theory, the spells were written in a primeval language she had never seen before. She couldn't even tell the level of whoever wrote the thing. Just when she was about to make a breakthrough in her brief research, everybody's attention was drawn towards the kitchen as the gang heard a blood-curdling scream. Wood volunteered to check out what the fuss is about, but Srills wanted Rin to take care of whatever's happening herself. She's just cooking some mole meat after all. It cannot be that serious, right? The group agreed, and they sat on their asses while their comrades struggled. Rin is desperately trying to figure out how to stop the daggers from sucking her dry. She used to attend Kella's classes in the Demon Kingdom. The wimp always cried after getting hit and would eventually drop out. Back then, she would listen to the lectures carefully in hopes of tutoring her young master after classes. Among the plethora of lectures she retained from those days, there should be a way to control this demonic weapon. She recalled a lecture about magic weapons. They might be strong, but if the user fails to control them, they are nothing more than useless hunks of rare materials. The key to handling a magic blade is grasping its true essence. Of course, an unruly weapon will try its hardest to hijack control of its user, making it a struggle to manifest magic into a desirable shape. Most demons can only release a small amount of magic power in a fight, but if one can master high-level concentration, one could create awe-inspiring phenomena. Back to the present, Rin plans to increase her level of concentration when manifesting magic power while trying to grasp the dagger's true essence. With her life on the line, matching the shape of the daggers to her magic output is a Herculean task. Even so, she grits her teeth and brute forces her way to subjugate the disorderly weapon. If she can't even control two blades, then he would have no chance of protecting her young master from the threat of white talcum. Sharpening her magic power to match the blade's edges, Rin stabbed into the dead giant mole in front of her. The skin that she couldn't pierce just a moment ago finally gave in. She succeeded through sheer will. Inspecting the daggers, she realized that they had stopped stealing her magic like a tamed beast with controlled aggression. Rin reveled in the feeling of making the demon weapon completely hers. Back in the common room, Kella starts to worry when the screams from the kitchen stop. Before he could open the door, Rin burst out with a tray of perfectly sliced giant mole meat. When asked what the screaming was all about, Rin brushed the questions off. She swore that nothing happened while she was sweating bullets. Shreels closed the grimoire and praised Rin for having a special talent for controlling blade energy. According to the grimoire, those giant moles have skin and fur so strong that they are practically invincible underground. Only swordsmen who can control very strong blade energy can cut through. Butchering them is only possible after they are fished out of the ground to slowly deplete their vitality. Wood was very impressed that Rin could go toe-to-toe with such tough meat. Similarly, Kella was quite pleased with Rin's success. To honor her win against the mole, he will happily feast on the meat. Rin was taken aback. Being acknowledged by the young master made her heart skip a beat. Now she's more pumped to keep using her own strength to be a reliable subordinate for the future Demon King. Shreels could see both Rin and Wood growing rapidly with their efforts, and realized that she was the only one stagnating. When they fought the earth demons and the monsters of the dungeon, she was borderline useless. She is a one-trick pony. Not being able to use large area magic because of the limited space is just a convenient excuse. She needs to learn high-level magic that can be used in any situation. That night, she neatly folded her clothes to the side and picked a spot to meditate. While channeling her mana, she reminded herself of her obligation to her father and to Kella. She was supposed to aid the heir, but she's been the one receiving help time after time. If Curdley finds them right now, they are dead meat. Shreels set her goal as reaching the 4th circle as soon as possible. Even so, Curdley is at least a 6th circle mage. She can't afford to waste time, so she decided to cut corners. Perhaps she could use an extreme measure in the form of the Earth Demon's ore, a forbidden mineral used to instantly increase one's strength at the cost of a shortened lifespan. To follow the late king's will and protect the incumbent sovereign, she would gladly sacrifice her own lifespan. Before she could swallow the forbidden ore, the ancient grimoire lit up and floated on its own. It riffled through the pages as the foreign inscriptions flew out in the form of pure mana. It was responding to Shreel's magic power. Much to her surprise, the inscriptions she couldn't understand before started chaining and combining. After forming an ancient wall of indecipherable texts, a mysterious power shot out and pierced through her stomach. Shreel's was wide open as the contents of the ancient grimoire forced themselves into her body. She felt her consciousness get taken to a different place, separate from her body. Shreels looked around and saw nothing but an all-encompassing darkness. Aside from her, there was another entity in the endless space. A woman clad in black was attracted to the power of the Demon King flowing through Shreels' blood. The grimoire must have activated her because of her father's energy. Feeling defensive and confrontational, she tried to feel out whether the witchy woman was hostile or not. The witch asserted that she was not Hel Khaldun's follower. She is significantly older than that. She was a subject of the one and only god of this world, Turk Khaldun. Shreels only knew that name from the annals of the Demon King's succession. Although fate is inevitable, there are times when it moves as if it has a will of its own. Today's meeting is one such instance. The witch chronicled how Turk Khaldun erected this dungeon. She used to travel with her lord to countless exotic places, leaving their mark throughout the world to help those of the next generations experience true enlightenment. It's starting to seem like ending up in this dungeon wasn't a mere coincidence. Seeing an opportunity to bolster the group's power, Shreels begged the witch to join the crew, detailing how the last Demon King, Hel, was slain by humans. Unfortunately, the witch in front of her is merely a trace of conditional activation magic left behind from years ago. Still, she could help the one who activated the grimoire. Grabbing the opportunity, Shreels asked the powerful mage how to get past her bottleneck at the 4th circle in order to protect Turk Khaldun's descendant. The witch appreciated her straightforwardness, but creating circles is unique for every individual, and assistance is very limited. But in this spatial abyss, the agony of death can grind every part of one's body, and those who can endure will be rewarded. Desperate to become more powerful, Shreels openly pleaded to be given the opportunity of a lifetime. The witch warned her that she would have to endure agony that would feel like 14 years of reality. Death awaits if she's unable to withstand the load. Shreels was already willing to cut her lifespan for a long shot. This is nothing. She was made for only one purpose. If she can't protect Kella now, she would have no reason to exist. No matter how long that agony lasts, she would gladly try to persevere. Sensing her sincere will, the witch started the ceremony. Using her ancient magic, she ripped all the magic Shreels have painstakingly learned her whole life. If she survives, she will be reconstructed from the bottom, imbued with the witch's power. Various grim magic circles surrounded Shreels as unimaginable pain was injected into every part of her being. This anguish and terror are like nothing she had ever felt before, and it will go on for a long-ass time. The witch emotionlessly worked on deconstructing Shreels, curious to see how long the woman could endure. Her agonized roar was guttural and primal. This is some Thriller Bark Zorro shit. While Shreels were undergoing the most intense torture of her life, the young master was walking around with a plate of succulent meat. The last time Kella saw Shreels, her expression bothered him. Now she had disappeared for the day. Walking into one of the winding hallways, Kella ran into an out-of-place orb. Inside was the body of the bloody Shreels, her consciousness trapped inside a prison of pain. Kella dropped his meat and ran towards the worrying sight. She analyzed the orb made with barrier magic and promptly drew his new blade. No matter how hard or how much he attacked, he could not make a dent in the orb. Worried that he might lose Shreels if he doesn't break the barrier, Kella was pushed to his wit's end. He tried over and over again to call on her to wake up to no avail. Meanwhile, the entirety of the White Talkin' Squad had already moved using Curdley's intel. She confirmed where Kella's group was headed by combing through the unicorn's memories. The butterflies also picked up demonic traces nearby. Still, there are a total of 427 islands to pick through to find the exact hole Kella is hiding in. Normally, it would take forever to go through these many islands, but the captain sees this as a good thing. They just have to find the right one and end the mission right away. Killian brandished his sword and unleashed a blade that could level mountains. His attack traveled through the water, turning the nearby islands to dust. Killian's comrades watched in awe at their boss's impeccable destructive power. They're aware of how powerful this man is, but seeing him use his power is still a sight to behold. With a decent bit of choices eliminated, Killian ordered his squad to split up and search. Meanwhile, the man they are hunting is futilely trying to break through some unknown ancient magic barrier. He's already running on fumes after trying for so long. He still hasn't made even a little dent. To make matters worse, Shreels are bleeding out of all her orifices. It's evident that a powerful mage did this to her, and Kella desperately wanted to get her out. While he was uselessly slashing away, the whole island shook frantically. It was so intense that it felt like a high-magnitude earthquake. The surveillance birds posted all over the island saw what was happening outside with clarity. Meanwhile, Captain Killian continues erasing islands one by one. Inside the dungeon, Stone the Slime was notified of the impending threat knocking at the island's proverbial door. The warning was immediately relayed to Kella, an emergency signal of the highest urgency. Stone detailed that the invaders are wearing white armor. That can only mean one thing. Some way, somehow, the Talkin' of White is now zeroing in on their location. Given Shreels' current condition, this is the worst time for an invasion. Kella even thought that Curdley was the one who trapped his comrade in this indestructible orb, so he made a run for it. If the location is compromised, everything will be over in an instant. He scoured the dungeon searching for Rin and Wood. As soon as he spotted them, Kella gave the order to hide in the bunker. With the Talkin' of White gnawing at their heels, the only choice they have right now is to hide and hope for the best. Wood remained calm while Rin was visibly shaken by the abnormal earthquake earlier. The two asked where Shreels was, and Kella hurriedly replied that she might already be compromised by Curdley's spell. They moved the coffin situated in the middle of the room, exposing a hidden bunker. Who would have thought that they would need to use the recently constructed secret bunker so soon? The trio jumped down to the makeshift hole, praying that the pursuers wouldn't check. When they landed, Kella turned around and used magic to seal the entrance while inwardly apologizing for helplessly leaving Shreels. Holy minus aura. Captain Killian is closing in by the minute, leaving islands crumbling and burning in his wake. When he stepped foot on the next one, he immediately got a whiff of vile demon magic. Inside the bunker, Stone reported that the white-haired swordsman is now in front of the dungeon entrance. There's no doubt about it. Humanity's strongest blade is now just a few meters from their short-lived oasis. If that guy notices the illusion magic blocking the entrance, they are as good as dead. And as expected of the captain, he easily saw through the ruse. Once he confirmed that the demons were hiding behind this visage, Killian motioned to draw his sword. Swordsman Gojo is itching to get his hands on the remaining demon with royal blood. With every report from Stone, their chances of survival continue to dwindle. Before performing his quick draw to level the island in one fell swoop, Killian hesitated. He reckoned that blowing this island up would make his troops swarm. He doesn't want to go through the hassle of crowding the scene just to catch a few measly demons. Besides, Killian doesn't want one of his men, Deed, to get his grubby hands on someone in particular. So, he held his hand and decided to hunt with a more personal touch. Killian wants to kill Kella and that demonic crew of his using his own hands. Stone reported the enemy's entrance to the dungeon, and Kella didn't hesitate to mobilize every monster he stationed all over the place. Golems and treasure spiders gave swordsman Gojo a warm welcome. All of them wanted to aggressively tear the captain apart. Killian was not in the least bit fazed by the unexpected combination of monsters and their sheer number. This time, his blade left its scabbard as he effortlessly danced his way through the insignificant obstacle. Stone conveyed the fall of every monster they had. The captain really balled out and wiped every single one in a single strike. The beasts that pushed Kella's group to the brink of annihilation not long ago couldn't even buy them a second now. Killian continued his nonchalant stroll through the dungeon and found the fork in the road, two diverging paths. He paused to think for a moment and eventually decided to just say fuck it and choose whichever based on his gut. It probably won't matter anyway. Kella felt a cold sweat run down his spine when the overpowered hunter chose the path that Sriels was stuck on. Trapped in ancient magic with a crazy, powerful killer on the loose, she is in grave danger. While the captain is inching closer and closer to the target, his troops are still slowly erasing other islands off the map. Curdley's method was a little more sophisticated as she cruised through the water while letting her butterflies do the work. Every minute, members of White Talcon relayed their failure to find the targets. Deed really wanted to be the winner of this hunt, but he could sense that the captain was the one who hit the jackpot and found that girl. While Killian was leisurely strolling through his chosen path, he came across the bizarre orb. He looked inside the translucent barrier and found the bloodied Sriels, the woman who betrayed Talcon. When he was but a young boy, Killian was an undeniable prodigy who could solo battalions of fourth-rank soldiers without batting an eye. Other kids just accepted that he's built differently, someone they could never catch up to, no matter what. The only exception was his brother, the hot-headed Killman. The trainers would always reprimand the boy for always trying to duel his brother and always falling in miserable defeat. Adults would tell Killman that it would take him 100 years just to catch up to his brother's natural talent. Killman always refuses to abide by that assessment, and Killian always felt sorry for his brother. From the moment the golden boy of the kingdom was born, he never parted with a sword. Since then, every moment with a blade felt unbearably boring. Until one day, he was roaming the training area when he passed by someone. It was young Sriels, working herself ragged, training after hours. From that moment on, the only thing that ever made young Killian's heart race in that dull life was that foolhardy girl. Every time she's in the training ground, she looks like a beast struggling to survive in the wild. That primal image always stirred something in the boy. It was a shame that they could not train in the same sector. Even so, he wanted to be a part of her struggle in his own little way. Since he never gets hurt in training, Killian has a surplus of medical rations. Every night, he would ask one of the trainers to hand the rations to the girl who always gets injured, sometimes nearly to the point of death. The trainer was not opposed to it, but it's quite unexpected to see the nonchalant boy showing concern for someone. Nosy trainer tried to pry more, asking if Killian had feelings for the girl. As a response, young swordsman Gojo just walked away. In his eyes, even though Sriels is always banged up, wounded, and hurt, she's still so loud and full of life. How can he not pay attention to someone like that? Years passed, and he kept doing his nightly drops of medical rations through the trainers. His first expedition training is taking place tomorrow, and he might go away for years. The trainer suggested that he deliver in person this time around. Even though he won't see Sriels for years, Killian still refuses to get directly involved. After every overtime training session, he would watch her tend to her wounds from afar. This had become routine for the reckless girl. Today, Killian regrets not pulling her into his camp back then. They could have stood together as fellow White Talcons. Maybe he could have convinced her to forget all about that lineage of the Demon King nonsense. The first and last time something or someone made his heart race was that beast-like girl. In another lifetime, if things had gone differently, the two could have been unstoppable side by side. But now, Sriels is nothing but a servant to her feudal mission, consumed by ambition far beyond her God-given potential. Twists of fate always cut as deep as a blade. Drawing his sword, Killian cut the orb with unbridled flair and mastery. Unlike Kella's weak-ass virgin attacks, Killian's Giga Chad slash easily dispelled the ancient magic. He stood over her limp body, staring down with emotionless eyes. The beast-like lady who gave color to his dull life is gone. While the heartbreaking reunion was happening, the trio in the bunker was feeling the heat. Kella tried to justify his decision to leave Sriels stuck in that magic barrier. Even if his sword slashes were useless, Rin and Wood don't want to leave Sriels out in the open. The young master is really fumbling here. He's doubting himself. Even if he used the Demon King's life force, going up against Talcon's level of strength might still end in devastation. This is not the game he used to play in his gaming chair. This time he could really lose his life. While the three were arguing, the sound of the inner gate getting demolished by force roared. Killian walked into the dungeon's last room while dragging the unconscious Sriels haphazardly. His hand gripped her neck like dead meat primed for slaughter. Upon entering, he stood still and scanned the room with discerning eyes. Kella is shitting his pants. This is it. Game over is coming. Judging the architecture, Killian determined that the dungeon is ancient, with signs of recent renovations. If he had to guess, Kella Khaldun must be watching from somewhere near. To avoid having to make big moves that would draw his subordinates' attention, he raised his blade against Sril's neck and threatened to go full terrorist video on her if the filth heir of the Demon King doesn't show himself. Never mind saving Sril's, even if all three of them charged in together, they would not even be able to make Killian bleed. Curdley was just an underling, and that woman alone was too much to handle. So Rin swallowed her fear and stated the only option available to them right now. She and Wood must draw Killian's attention in hopes of buying a little bit of time for Kella to escape through the passage behind the statue. Wood concurred with the suicide plan. They must prioritize saving the man single-handedly, keeping the bloodline of the Demon King running. Not giving him the chance to argue against the plan, Rin coaxed her magic and drew her daggers, begging the young master to do everything in his power to survive. Kella was paralyzed by his own incompetence. Rin and Wood burst out of the coffin cover, making quite a splash that didn't faze the captain. Rin raised her blades, and Wood prepared his shield, wholeheartedly willing to fight to their last breath. Just as Killian thought, the demons were hiding in a hole like the rats that they are. Wood started the fight by stimulating the life force of his shield to summon winding roots that spread all over the perimeter. He's banking on summoning a big enough wall of roots to block the view, while the young master makes a run for it. The cowardly prince crawled out of the hole and gave his comrades one last look before heading towards the secret passage. He kept thinking that this was not a game anymore. You don't respawn after getting brutally killed by someone like Killian in this world. Kella is scared out of his wits. He desperately wants to avoid dying helplessly again. Rin sensed her young master's presence, retreating deep into the statue's passage, and breathed a sigh of relief. Killian seemingly flash-stepped in front of the two, rendering their defense and threats moot. When asked where the prince had gone, Rin lied through her teeth and asserted that Kella was never in this dungeon to begin with. Wood repositioned himself to the flank and extended the stalwart roots to grab onto the swordsman's arm in hopes of taking his weapon away. Killian didn't give a shit. He was just fascinated by the dark elf and demon pairing. As for their techniques, he wasn't impressed. Working off of Wood's attempt at crowd control, Rin closed in to stab the captain with her newly mastered daggers. Not only did she fail, but she was also nearly decapitated right then and there. Killian just chose to stop his blade in the nick of time. Then, he waved the roots away like they weighed nothing at all. His agile hand somehow reached Wood from where he was standing. He grabbed the dark elf's neck and tightened the death grip to the brink of crushing Wood's windpipe. Both Rin and Wood just wanted to buy a little more time. They would take every second that they could squeeze. You see, Killian is not interested in interrogating these two. Sure, if Kella appears in the open, things would be easier. If not, he can just as easily kill every rat in this room and not lose sleep over it. Rin felt a primal fear in her heart when he peered through Killian's eyes. Even among ruthless demons, she had never seen eyes like his. It's like he's an unfeeling monolith devoid of any emotion and sensation, an empty and infinite void in the shape of a man. Killian tightened his grip a little more, making Wood bleed from the pressure. He also pushed the blade in Rin's neck a little deeper, the steel gnawing at her artery. Rin could not stop her body from trembling. A terror so deep and primeval had taken hold of her. She doesn't want to die. She wants to see her master just one more time. Still, she muscled through the fear of death for the sake of Kella's survival. Wood, even though a recent addition to the team, felt the same. Killian saw and heard their resolve and praised Kella for surrounding himself with unexpectedly loyal subordinates. As a sign of respect for their determination, the captain elected to give the two honorable quick deaths. A little more grip strength would stop Wood's breathing, and a bit more force would chop Rin's head off. Before all of that could happen, Kella Khaldun decided not to be a pussy, turned around, and drew his blade to save his comrades. This is precisely what Captain Killian was banking on to happen. Rin and Wood felt a mix of relief and a sense of defeat upon seeing the young master come back. Sure, this is not a game. One death and it's game over. But that is also true for Rin, Wood, and Sril's too. They are not NPCs you leave to die when push comes to shove. Kella had traveled with this group together. They fought side by side, putting their lives on the line. More than subordinates, they have long since become precious friends. The heir of the Demon King cannot stomach letting them die helplessly. Although terrified, Kella presented himself in exchange for Rin and Wood. Captain Killian willingly relented and tossed the small fries out of the way. His brother Kilman died because of Kella's father. For that, the captain feels entitled to wipe out the Demon King's bloodkin. Kella had seen overpowered characters like this man before, both in games and in real life. They are the type to chase those who wronged them to the ends of the earth. Even so, the young demon lord won't go down without a fight. He drew his blade and charged at humanity's strongest soldier, worrying his subordinates. They tried to assist their young master, but Kella ordered them to stay out of the fight, take Sril's, and retreat to a safe place post-haste. Rin tried to argue, but Wood knows his role. They are given orders, and they must do as told. Sure, it's frustrating right now, but even if they tried to fight alongside their young master, they won't be able to contribute much at all. Wood's resolve snapped Rin out of her delusion. Kella reinforced the order to retreat while he tried to go toe-to-toe with Killian. Rin finally gritted her teeth and assisted Wood in carrying Shrills, praying that the young master would survive this ordeal. Kella went all out right away. His attacks were helplessly deflected. Killian was barely paying attention to the enemy in front of him. His eyes were fixated on Shrills. Offended by how distracted the captain was, Kella pushed his offense harder. Killian mocked the successor of the Demon King's lineage for trying to exhibit human emotions. Nevertheless, this is just one more weakness to exploit. The captain finally stopped messing around and planted the Demon King's heir deep into the cavern walls. He's starting to feel hopeless. This white-haired monster is on a whole different level compared to anyone he has ever faced before. This is a real powerhouse. His whole body is shaking, and his legs feel like they are submerged in cement. With his current strength, he is practically a bug waiting to be crushed in an instant. But since he's been exposed and headed to ruin, he might as well go all out and access the full power of the Demon King lying dormant inside his body. Empowered by an overflowing strength courtesy of his ancestors, Kella initiated round 2. Killian caught a whiff of the power that brought down the city of Arsal. Kella found that instead of a completely one-sided beatdown, he can finally see Killian's sword. It was like he had become someone else, something entirely different. Seeing this transformation only strengthened Killian's will to annihilate every trace of the Demon King's blood. Even with this power-up, the end result remained the same. What good is seeing your enemy's sword when you still can't defend or avoid it? It's hard to believe that Killian holds all that power in a mortal body. Behind the statue's secret path, Rin and Wood felt the whole island shake as the dungeon started collapsing. While Rin was freaking out, Wood kept it cool. He kept his eyes forward. Their top priority is following orders and getting Shrills to safety. If their group's second-in-command regains consciousness, they might have the agency to do something else. Fortunately, they reached the exit before the dungeon completely collapsed. Up in the statue room, Kella was just spamming attacks, hoping that he could hit a lucky slash. Imagine Killian's surprise when that sloppy swordsmanship unexpectedly sliced his cloak. Sure, Kella had undergone some sword training in the past. Now he's trying to harness a generational power that he can barely contain. The longer this state lasts, the more pain he's suffering. It felt like the overwhelming power was literally ripping his body apart. If this drags on longer, his body might give in before Killian could even land the killing blow. Seeing him overdraft and shorten his lifespan to buy more time and save some irrelevant subordinates, Killian dug into Kella for being a dumbass. The young master simply corrected the captain that those three were not mere subordinates to him. The sloppy offense continued while Killian's ironclad defense wore Kella down. With this much commotion, the rest of the White Talcan must have noticed by now. That means Deed is on his way. With that in mind, the captain's playtime is over. He swiftly tapped the large gap in Kella's defense and knocked the young master's blade away. Kella tried to run after and retrieve his blade, but the momentary distraction made him pay the price in blood. Killian gave the young demon a message in case father and son meet in hell. He wants Helkaldan to know that the last royal demon was killed as punishment for Kilman's murder. Kella is practically immortal, but his regeneration cannot keep up with the captain's destructive power. He is painfully knocking at death's door. Rin and Wood are trying to do their best to carry her to safety. They want to locate a safe island as the state of the dungeon is nearing its collapse. Kella's safety is a huge concern, but they can't risk compromising her Shriel's safety in the process. It's what he wanted, but leaving him all alone is just something Rin can't easily accept. She remembers how he's the one who came back to help them. The fact that they shouldn't go out to help him seems unfair. The servant doesn't want to abandon her master. Wood understands her concerns, agreeing that she's completely justified in saying that. Besides, Kella only tasked them to relocate Shriels to a safe location. There weren't any other orders, so they can act on their own now. Back to the scene of the fight, Killian is humiliating this man with blue flames. They're so strong that even his high-speed regeneration is rendered useless. With the current rate of things, he's gonna die. At that moment, Rin surprises both of them by jumping in between, demanding the warrior to get away from her master. Killian takes out his energy blade from Kella's body, viewing the attendant as a mere distraction to his goals. He wants to fight her, when suddenly Wood tangles him from behind, binding him with his vines. The injured Kella fears for their lives, begging them to run instead of trying to help him. Rin promises her master that they already took Shrills to a safe location, and since he wasn't clear on what they should do after, they acted on their own. The dark elf sides with her, refusing to abandon him all by himself. Their concern is cute, and all but Kella knows that things are looking really bad. As Kang Chiwoo, he wonders if he'd ever been able to make such brilliant friends. In his previous life, he was beaten senselessly by his father every day. The alcoholic abused him, and the ones who he called his friends talked crap behind his back, treating him with disregard and jealousy. They were fake. Kang Chiwoo's only escape was the world of games that welcomed him in open arms. His misery came from the realization that he'd always be alone. But at least in this second life, these people are willing to lay down their lives for his sake. He is eternally grateful for his friend's efforts, and dawns on a new attitude not to go down so easily. Thanks to their distraction, he can regenerate all his wounds, allowing him the chance to strike Killian while he is kept busy by the others. He actually does manage to tackle the warrior into a corner. Killian thinks it's pointless to struggle in their position, while Kella is out here inviting him to a one-on-one encounter, refusing to stand back. While this epic duel is taking place, Deed watches the island from afar, recalling having seen his captain go there. He thinks Killian is enjoying the subjugation all by himself, so Deed decides to join in on the fun too. Meanwhile, the redhead is placed just outside the dungeon. Sriels regains her consciousness in her bloodied state, her eyes showing signs of life. Back to the main brawl, Killian powers an energy blast in his palm and hits Gardy with a heavy blow. Next, with a swing of his sword, he sends Rin flying. Lastly, there's Kella, who is out here getting slashed with heavy hits. The warrior in white amuses if Kella truly thinks he'll be able to defeat him through numbers alone. He's actually right. Not even the three of them combined are strong enough to face him. Kella's regeneration won't last him forever either. His confidence flickers. Recovering doesn't mean a thing if he isn't powerful enough to stop Killian, which means they're fated to die here. Knowing that there's no escape, he begs his friends to just run off and leave him in this battle. Rin refuses to oblige. They've decided to come too far to turn away from him here and now. They want to be with him until the end, pressuring him all the more that they're doing so much for his sake. Killian assures all three demons that they've got nothing to worry about. One way or another, they're destined to die by his sword. Kella is terrified, but he also doesn't see any outcome in which they survive. Just when you think all hope is turned to dust, a certain mage blasts her way inside the dungeon. The explosion catches both of them off guard. Kella and Killian are haunted with the same question, wondering who set off the explosion. Emerging from the other side is a mage we're all familiar with. Sriels has donned on her new transformation with her demonic horns, happy to have found Kella alive and safe. Our boy, who is busy fighting Killian, is shocked. He couldn't even imagine her return. The same goes for Rin and the others. She managed to defeat Deed, something that not even he could have predicted. The guy still thinks it's a fluke of some kind. Sriels slams him into the ground, demanding that he shut the hell up already. They've pissed her off. Sriels eyes down the leader of the Talkin of White, setting him as her final target. The white-haired warrior is impressed, astonished that she managed to not only best Deed, but also somehow emerge from the abyss of pain alive. Acknowledging her as a descendant of the great demon, he's genuinely amazed that Sriels managed to freaking surpass Curdley from his own team. But that's a given, since the redhead spent nearly twice as long in that painful abyss. Thanks to that, she got all the time necessary to train her body to ascend to the power of the sixth circle. Rin and Wood are completely baffled. Kella's face shows his shock. He can't fathom how a fourth circle mage could manage to ascend to the sixth circle rank in such a brief period of time. Killian has always been impressed with her progress. He holds her in high regard, but now that she's ascended another level, it makes his heart race even faster. The sixth circle mage promises her comrades healing, activating a spell called Dark Regrowth. Its effects handily undo all the wounds on Kella's body. The same goes for the rest of their party, showing how much faster her healing capabilities have evolved. The warrior in white has his eyes fixed. He doesn't care about anyone else on the battlefield except Sriels, who is looking as majestic as ever. The sixth circle mage doesn't share the same sentiment, unleashing the fog of forgetting spell, punishing him for what he did to her friends. This strange spell manifests in the form of a shadow veil blocking out his senses. In other words, Killian's effectively blind and has no sense of direction to work with. It's an ability far stronger than Curdley's binding magic entrapping him a domain. His consciousness flails within, trying his best to cut his way out of it, but he's too worried about the attacks that are unleashed by his enemies. By the way, even without his sight, Killian is so talented that he avoids Rin with swift precision. Even Kella couldn't attack him from his rear from a blind spot. In other words, this man is literally pulling an ultra instinct. His body is reacting all on its own to prevent any injury. Sriels holds him in high regard for being the leader of the Talkin of White, so she casts a second spell called the Dark Water of Corruption. This one melts down on his armor, exposing his skin and cutting into his shoulder. Killian takes the shoulder plate and quickly removes it to prevent further scars. It's at that moment Sriels tells everyone to lock the hell in, because at last he's exposed. Wood uses his Guardy shield to immobilize him, preventing movement. Rin, on the other hand, goes on the offensive, trying her best to cut him clean. Killian blocks her daggers with ease, forcing the sixth circle mage to activate a third spell, Greedy Thorns. These thorns further immobilize his limbs, entrapping Killian in a position where both his arms and legs are locked down. There's no way for him to run anymore, and he's exposed to fatal attacks. Normally, Killian could easily deal with all of these spells without trouble, but because he's lost all his senses, he can only do so much in his position. Persisting against their strategy, he raises his battle sword, vowing to get rid of the illusion magic. Shreels begs Kella to act quickly because they'll lose their chance if he successfully uses his sword energy to break the spell. Our boy imbues his demonic mana inside his own blade, knowing that he won't ever get the chance to do this again. He loads everything into one definitive strike, empowering his blade at full capacity. And here's the shocking part. My guy actually managed to cut off Killian's arm and clean off his body, the same arm that the Tolkien of White's leader was planning to use to free himself. This man's bones are exposed. That's hella nasty. But here's the shocking part. Kella originally aimed for his head. He listened to Thanos' advice from Infinity War, except Killian still managed to dodge that shit. This dude's fundamentally on a different level. Though even with his missing arm, Killian doesn't express fear. He realizes that he let his guard down because of her interruptance. Suddenly, the warrior in white starts shooting laser beams out his eyes. Bro's Superman, apparently. Shreels begs Kella to get the hell out of the way or else he's cooked. It's time we explore a background sequence of Killian's life. The young brothers had no idea where they were being taken, while their father assured the children that it was a special day. They were going to meet the beast god of light, Lumiaran, the one who will accept them as his own. The older brother knew that meeting gods isn't an easy thing. He thought they were being punished for doing something wrong, but the arrogant and ignorant father assured them that there wasn't anything wrong. In fact, they're perfect candidates to be sacrificed to the god of light. Lumiaran only requires the best souls. Even the children's mother had no guilt for them. Killian among them was the most special, as if his existence was supposed to be sacrificed to the beast god. The boy's odd skin and cold eyes made them believe this ridiculous idea even more. The father proudly presented the holy altar to the children, promising them their fate. After their sacrifice, the beast god will provide them with abundance. The brothers weren't ready to die. Killian among the two had no intention of dying at all. At the altar, the ritual was conducted to call forth the beast god. The children were repeatedly reminded not to fear the dragon. The beast god emerged before them, its eyes blank, glowing as it awaited its next sacrifice. The boy's mother pushed them to be sacrificed. They wanted both children to experience their fate while ignoring their cries. It was at that moment that the fearless child met the eyes of the beast god. He felt the creature's light for the first time. And now, in this moment, while he's shooting out those beams of light, it's the same power he was blessed with back then. Kella is knocked into a wall. Rin is sent crashing. Wood is the only one safe because of his shield. Even the Sixth Circle newly evolved Shreels is confused how that light managed to negate her magic. She needed to cast a second spell, except this Gigachad is glowing blue aura like he just tapped into a new evolution. Killian remarks that the demon Kella has taken everything from him. The boy's father, the Demon King, killed his own brother, and he even has Shreels to his side. If things couldn't get worse, he even took his arm just now. With the eyes of a killer, Killian promises them an endless hell from now on. Our boy knows that he's done because this dude's not gonna back down unless he dies. In other words, he's gotta beat him down here fast. It's his best chance since Killian is heavily nerfed in his current condition. Wielding his blade, Kella unleashes the best of his aura, taunting back that he'll be the one to send the warrior in white to hell. Both of them are on maximum bloodlust, wishing nothing but death against each other. Watching from the side, Shreels takes note of Kella's ever-growing mana. With his current level of power, she thinks it might even be possible for him to defeat Killian. Unfortunately, we'll never find out because Curdley arrives with the rest of the team. All of them are horrified to see their leader's missing arm. Realizing that they can't fight these guys together all at once, Shreels turns to Kella for another strategy. But instead of looking right at her, this man lasers his gaze towards his opponent. This man is not a coward. He's about that smoke, having so much concentration that he doesn't even recognize the Tolkien of White just behind Killian. The only thing on his mind right now is to kill the bastard, no matter what. A single definitive strike to end it all.